You okay with that, though? So cars are on the grid. You see a BMW Z4 there. Behind that, one of the Audis. That's the GT300 field towards the back of this field. How many cars we got, Sam?
I believe it's 44.
44, excellent. 80 odd laps. Just give us a shout, Pete, when you're ready. How's the effects level?
Maybe it's the effects is too low.
Well, hello everybody and welcome along to our live and exclusive coverage here on Nismo.tv of the first round of the Japanese Super GT Championship for 2015. I'm John Hindorf. Alongside me, just to my right from Race Car Engineering, is Sam Collins. Morning, Sam.
Hello, John. How you doing?
I'm alright, mate. You excited?
I'm very excited. There's quite a lot of fun things I'm looking forward to seeing on this grid.
Let's have a look then at the grid. It's the RCF with Andrea Caldarelli on pole position. He will start the car, and as we go back through, we can see first of all the variety here of car and driver. This is the GT500 field that we're going at. It's going to be Kunimoto who starts the number 6 in second place. Takikawa for the 38. The Motolotec GTR is running Kentarelli. James Rossiter will start the Petronas Toms 36. Takashi Koge is in the 15. Kohei Hirate sharing with Heikki Kovalainen in the 39. The Calsonic 12, it's Yasuda Yamamoto in the rear brig 100 car. Motoyama, that's Satoshi Motoyama in the 46, the GTR, the S-Road car. And into the GT300s, Andre Kuto with the pole position there, and he'll start the Hina Tanak GTR from the second place car of Bjorn Verdheim. Shinichi Takagi in third place with the CRZ. The car is Takashi Toshaya Kokisaga in the Prius. Then it's Kazuki Hoshino in the 3 car. The 0 car started by Katoka Sechiara with Jörg Muller in the BMW Z4. Effectively a bit naughty, that one. That's effectively a works car. The Leon SLS will have Haruki Kurosawa starting that one. Richard Lyons in the Audi R8 LMS Ultra. The Ferrari 458, so it is an endurance race. It's got a 458 in it. With Naoki Yokomiso. We've got a Lamborghini in there with Manaba Orido starting that one. And so they go 40 plus cars through the field. Mostly, of course, GT300s. Slightly different look and feel to 300s this year, Sam, because we will be getting the new style of GT3 competitors in the GT300 class. They're kind of trying to push the FIA GT3s out of that.
Well, GT300 class, John, is a tuner class essentially, so it's designed for small Japanese teams and small Japanese tuners to let those little companies in Japan come out with their own modified versions of racing cars from all over Japan. So we've got 3 different types of GT300 car, which we'll talk about a bit more, but first of all, I think we've got to talk about that little Lotus. It's beautiful. Keep an eye out for that one. We may have lost the car out of the GT300 field. There was a crash in warm-up this morning to one of the SLSs, hit the wall, so I'm not sure if that's on the grid at the moment.
Well, we'll try and pick that out as we go through. As you can see, if you're watching the pictures here, it is not the best of days at Okayama, formerly known as TT Aida, of course. TI Aida, of course, started, interestingly, in rather sort of an American style, as a country club style racing circuit out in the middle of nowhere in the mountains.
Yeah, and then Mr. Tanaka, who was running the whole
Hence
thing,
TI.
Indeed, Tanaka International,
yeah.
Decided to attract Formula One to come and race at his new circuit in 1994. They had the Pacific Grand Prix there, and again in 1995. And then everyone realised it was a little bit too far away from everything, and no one really
Is it
wanted to
right
go
that the first Grand Prix there was the first, and as far as we're aware, still the only Grand Prix that was fully public transport driven? Because you can't park at the track, can you?
That's right, there's no parking at the circuit. The circuit is half up a mountain in the middle of nowhere, hence the weather conditions you can see on the screen at the moment. I'm not sure it's the first public transport only event. I think that title might go to certain other circuits.
Okay.
But it was the first Formula One event, I think, with all public transport.
Amazing. An amazing circuit. The circuit names get on the internet and a storming site. Isn't that your site, by the way? That we've been
It's a site,
Racing Circuit Info.
Racing Circuits Info, yeah. It's a site I have certain serious involvement with.
The first race that was held there was mainly run by European drivers of some repute. We'll talk about that in a moment. Here is the national anthem live from the track. The distinctive strains of the Japanese national anthem live from the first round of the Japanese Super GT, with the echelon of police motorcycles at the head of the field. At lap record time at the head of the GT 500 field, and the series going in a month's time to Fuji, then out to the Chang International Circuit, which I just watched the motorbikes on at Burinam in Thailand. Fantastic looking circuit down there. Back to Fuji, as you might imagine. Very much a national look to this Suzuka Sportsland Sugo. Is that just Sugo?
That's just Sugo.
Okay, that's fine. Don't confuse me with things like that. Lap record pace, as we said in qualifying, Sam, set in dry weather conditions for the GT 500s, and a pace that, in fact, would have been on a par with Formula One the last time they were here.
Yeah, I mean, back in 1995, we had the 40 Corsis and Pacific Formula One teams. Now, these aren't the top teams on the grid, and they, by any stroke of the imagination, but the pole position times in GT500, actually the top 2 or 3 cars, would have qualified for the Pacific Grand Prix in 1995. That's just how fast these cars are. It's a tyre war class, which is what makes them so fast. You've got different tyre suppliers battling, and that means lots and lots of grip. Bridgestone
for the first 3 cars. The Mortel number 1, Ronnie Quintarelli starting that car, first of the Michelin runners.
Last year's champion there, John.
And hence the number 1. Dunlop also, as well as Yokohama in there. So 4 different tyre suppliers. Now, there is, of course, very great tie-ups with some of the tyre manufacturers to some of the particular cars. Does that mean that you get an advantage if the tyres are built specifically for that car?
I'm not sure if it still goes on, but they used to build tyres specifically for the drivers.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, this is full-on tyre war. I mean, this is total war.
And the same in GT300?
It's absolutely the same in GT300. Some of the teams in GT300 are fully backed by the tyre companies. One big change, as we're seeing on screen, the Subaru fans. Their Subaru's had a massive restructuring over the winter. Their Works GT300 team has switched from, I believe, Michelin tyres to Dunlops this year. So they're on the Dunlops this year for the first time. That'll be something to watch.
Really, strictly speaking, the 300s, and we touched on this, it's not supposed to be a manufacturer class.
It's not. It's a tuner class, but Subaru kind of were allowed in because they didn't want to go and play in the big league of the 500s. But pretty much every other team, with the exception of one on that grid, is a tuner, so an amateur team. if you like. So rather than being run by Nissan or Nismo, it's run by B-Max, or a company that sells Nismo parts for road cars, and that's the real marketing thing for it. And that's why GT300, they wanted to see the battle between the Japanese tuner cars and the best of European GT cars. So we've got all the top name GT3 cars, including one new car we haven't seen in any race anywhere before, which is the new Lexus GT3 car. It's the first time it has ever turned a wheel in anger, so it'll be good to see how that gets on. But you'll see those taking on these two other different types of GT car, the JAF GT300s, which are more done on a technical rule book, fairly free, bit like an old school GT500 car, and the new mother chassis cars. We've got a Lotus, single Lotus, and a pack of GT86 Toyotas running in that class as the police set off from the mark on the parade lap. Now you'll see these run around quite nicely.
So as the motorcycles, the police motorcycles, move off, this is very nicely done. On pole position in a lap record time, or a qualifying record time, should I say, is the 37 Keeper Tom's RCF, Andrea Calderari. Oh, and one of the motorcyclists has gone down at the hairpin at the far end of the circuit. And that just shows you how slippery it is. That's at Atwood Curve, I believe, that he's gone off there. The first corner is called first corner. Then it's Williams, the Moss S, the Atwood Curve, which is a big hairpin. Then into the hairpin.
Which is a hairpin.
Called the hairpin. Then Revolver. I haven't got to the bottom of that one yet.
No.
Then Piper, Redman, Hobbs, Mike Knight, and then the last corner, which is called...
Last corner.
Correct. What else would you call it?
Who was Mike Knight?
Mike Knight, it was... oh, go on, you tell the story.
I don't know. I thought it was something to do with Knight Rider.
No. Hello, Michael. He was... I know this. Hang on. I shall look back at my notes. Talk amongst yourselves.
Well, that's going to be seriously embarrassing for that police officer who dropped it there. But we have had rain overnight, and the overnight rain has caused a real shift in the grid, John.
Mike Knight was the man behind the Winfield Racing School.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. I knew it was in the notes somewhere, because I thought that as well and went and looked it up. I didn't know that. So all bar one of the police motorcyclists then are heading back up this circuit, formerly known as TI Aida, and the circuit that was built out literally in the middle of nowhere in the foothills of the mountains, hence the slightly dodgy weather conditions that can affect. It does look horrible as well, and greasy. You can see the guys on the bikes at the moment not leaning at all on those motorcycles, which I think are Kawasaki's, not sure.
My knowledge of Japanese police motorcycles, John, is not that
very nearly
high.
Came down on the BMW today, but I thought I wouldn't subject you to that. We're in the mighty Audi A6 instead. So the parade lap now completed. A goodly sprinkling of fans in the main grandstands.
It's great to see those flags waving. What you watch during the race, John, you'll see the fans for each different faction, different manufacturer wave their flags as they come past, and as the sirens wave and the cars come back to the grid. Have a listen to that.
We need this at Silverstone for the WEC. That is absolutely awesome.
And that is the proper pace car they're now picking up as the police escort goes around it.
Yes, magnificent stuff. The Lexus pace car with its lights out. So that is effectively the parade lap. That is the formality done. Rolling start?
Rolling start, very much. Two starting packs. You'll see the GT500 go off first, and they'll probably be a good way down through the Moss S into Atwood Curve before you see the GT300s have a second group start. So we get 2 starts for one, and it really then becomes 2 races within one. But I expect a lot of action off this start line. In the GT300 class, keep an eye on Tomonobu Fuji in the number 21 car. He was fastest in this morning's wet weather session, the only wet weather running they've had. In the 500 class, it looks like Caldarelli is going to be one to watch, but that whole class is packed with such a high calibre of drivers. You know, where Heikki Kovalainen is not seen as a star driver there at the moment.
That's
He's still
quite
got
remarkable,
to prove
isn't
himself. You know, a Formula 1 Grand Prix winner.
That is quite remarkable that is the case.
Also new in that class, Oliver Turvey,
Yep.
been loaned by McLaren to Honda for this year's championship in Super GT.
So the car's still trying to get some heat into their various tyres. And this is Nismo TV live with the opening round of the Japanese Super GT Championship. Race Car Engineering Magazine's Sam Collins, and I'm John Hindhaugh. And I'm really looking forward to this. Fantastic images from Okayama, and the weather not playing ball early on, but this could make things very interesting at the front of the field. 15 GT 500s and a huge field of GT 300s for the season, and indeed for this race.
Well, one of the reasons we've got such a big GT300 field, John, is the increase in the number of Nismo GTRs we've got running in that class. They seem to have multiplied over the winter, where only 1 or 2. We've now got quite a lot more, with some of the top teams like Gainer switching to the GTR. So watch those 2015 spec GTRs as the GT500 cars explore that wet line where I think the SLS went off earlier.
Yeah, that looks awful. You can see as soon as people put power down, the back end of the cars are just beginning to squirm around whatever tyres and comment. And there's evidence of water that's been running across the track as well. Now, it doesn't appear to be raining too heavily at the moment. And indeed, the optimist in me says it's brightening up over there. So this could be one of those races where the transition from intermediates or wet tyres to dry could be the absolute key to the race. The Lexus pace car pulls off into the pit lane that was moved to make life easier rather than being on the very fast entry to the final corner. And we have the 2x2 formation at the front of the field as we're getting ready to go racing for 2015 and the Japanese Super GT live here on Nismo.tv. This is a great sight. The flags are flying from the fans in the grandstand. The headlights are on, the hammers go down, and we are racing. And from pole position, it is the Lexus that pulls away. And that's a pretty decent first corner for the pole sitter, Andrea Caldarelli.
We've got a car round there, John. It looked like that was the Saab Toyota. No, that wasn't the Saab, that was the Petronas Toyota. I think that would...
That's James Rossiter.
Yeah, it's Rossiter's.
That's Rossiter. GT300 gets underway, and again, it looked like the pole sitter just about, hanging on there. That's Andrea Couto, and he's got the jump there straight away in the Gainer Tanax GTR. Look at them looking for the outside line there, looking for grip.
Oh, and that CRZ there, the little JAF GT car in second position there, John, was desperately close to putting it in the wall.
And that is Shinichi Tagaki come up from row 2 in the Arta CRZ, the 55 car coming through. That one at least will stand out in the dull conditions. So the 2 pole sitters have broken away from the pack, and that's exactly what they would have wanted to do. 82 laps on the lap counter, battle for second in the GT500 category as they go through the side by side. The Petronas car with Rossiter trying to recover from that little incident at the first corner.
This is not a... Rossiter had in his last Super GT race at Motegi, Rossiter had a fairly torrid time of it and lost it as the Honda there loops around. That's the new Honda team. The replacement for Dome, the Dragu Modular team, and that is Kogure at the wheel. First race for this team.
And that's the car that Oliver Turvey will get into later in the race. That's a brand new car. That is a brand new concept as well for these guys. They've been pushing very hard to get this car ready and into the championship.
That's right. This is the NSX hybrid, so it's one of the, it's a bit of an oddity, this car. It's a DTM chassis with the engine in the wrong place.
Well, yes, the whole concept of this common chassis for the GT300s that can have the engine in either end, basically you kind of flip it around. I'm not sure I kind of get my head round it, but Sam tried to explain it to me in the car earlier, and I'm still none the wiser, if I'm honest. Meanwhile, at the head of the field, it is still the pole sitters, and that's about 3/4 of a second for Andre Couture, as there's a challenge
round the outside.
That is just imperious. I was taking a second look there. I was wondering if that was a GT500 car that was making its way back through the field, but it wasn't.
That was the Toyota Prius there, John. You had the two hybrids. You had the Honda hybrid, the CRZ, taking on the Toyota hybrid as the... and that is the news. Team Study BMW. Seiya has gone off, and it looks like he's got some damage on the left front there.
The Prius, the 31 car, started in 5th, and Kokisaga then up into 2nd position for that Prius.
Now, that could see a safety car. It's in a slightly ropey position there, John. And that's a battle for the lead in GT300. That Prius is really on it.
Coming down the inside into the heavy braking area towards the end of the lap. And they've already got lapped traffic.
No, that's not lap traffic. That is trouble for the Keihin NSX. And he has hit the Toyota.
It's Hideki Muto at the 17 car, the blue Keihin NSX Concept GT. So they've had some issue earlier on. And the safety car is out. At least there's an intervention vehicle there at the far side. Now,
that's an intervention vehicle. These guys are still racing, John.
Yeah, that is white lights. So, same as a white flag. Still on the circuit. And those guys race past that, remarkably. This is still the battle for GT300. Lead then Andre Couture with Kokisaga right in his wheel tracks at the moment. And if you...
it's not going to be his wheel tracks much longer, John. That little hybrid there is going to boost past him.
He's just taking a more normal line than the Nissan is able to. The Nissan punching a big hole in the air and has got the horsepower down the straight, but down into the first corner, cold first corner. It will be down the inside. Kokisaga surely late on the brakes, Couture, but he has to stay wide in the GTR, and the Prius has got the position. Has to drop to the left-hand side. Now, can he pull around the outside manoeuvre? He's done it once already. Stay off the curb. He has done.
The grip that little Toyota has got is incredible, John.
Not all-wheel drive either.
Not all-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive. It's got the back. What's in the back of that Toyota, though, is a little bit different to what you find in your production Toyota. That's an RV8K, the engine used up to the end of last season by the Rebellion LMP1 team, that Toyota LMP1 engine.
Now, what we don't know, of course, is what tyres everybody's on. I would say
wet.
That
Inters.
Well, I'm just wondering, because straight away, as soon as the Prius got into the lead, it was looking for wet. I wonder if they're on full wet, and I wonder if there's been one or two gambles. If you're on pole position, though, you don't really want to gamble on inters, but they may be using their tyres differently. We're on lap number 5, 4 completed, and already some lappage going on with people who are struggling, and it's still that NSX Concept GT Hideki Moto who
that was the slow. Subaru. That was the Subaru there, John, that's struggling. So that's dropped back, and they're passing the gainer. So they're actually right in the tail end of the GT300 cars already. So this is already lapped traffic on lap 4. So it's taken 4 laps to catch up to the back of the field with this massive Lexus squabble for second position, with Nissan trying to get in on the action as well.
This is brilliant stuff. The RCF side by side, that is the Atwood curve on the far side of the circuit. The Nissan snips through into 3rd position, and that is the Takikawa in 2nd place. The Takikawa car is sharing with Hiroki Ishura in the Zenit 38 car.
You are absolutely right, John. I just saw a bit of puddle hunting going on there. They are trying to cool down these wet tyres, and look at the number of intervention vehicles on. It's quite brave to keep running in these conditions, but
I'm guessing they're thinking that that's quite a slow corner.
That's Ronnie Quintarelli, who obviously drove brilliantly last year in that Nissan, hunting down the second position car, as we have a quick look at the race leader, Ronnie Quintarelli, doing massive puddle hunting there. So these guys are going to be in the pits for tyres in the next 5 laps, John.
So down towards the first corner, 2nd and 3rd go past one of the Mercedes-Benz SLSs there. So Caldarelli leads in the 37 in the Toms RCF from pole position, has cleared out a little bit. The battle is for 2nd position in the GT500 category. The 300 category, from 5th on the grid, Kokisaga, who shares with Yuichi Nakayama on the Bridgestones, Now, interestingly, it's Bridgestone's at the head of the 500 field as well, so I wonder if they've got something a little bit special as far as rain tyres. And here comes Quintarelli, defending champion, side by side with the RCF, but can't make that happen. Yes, he can. Into Atwood, gets it done. Got a great run out of that's into the hairpin, out of Atwood and down to the hairpin. Got a great run out of Atwood curve.
And here's that battle for the GT300.
Second place now, this is the Gainer GTR. Andre Couto was on pole position, and he's got that R2C RZ. The Honda right in behind him.
Now, the team with that R2C RZ, John...
It's tiny, isn't it?
It's a tiny little JAF. That's a JAF GT300 car.
JAF standing for?
Japanese Auto Federation.
Right.
Taking on a standard GT3 car, which is the GTR, you see. So you see the real difference between those two car types. That Arta CRZ is a hybrid, but Arta is also known by a different name, Autobac Zaguri, or previously known Super Aguri.
Yep.
And we'll hear about them later in the race.
Will we? Here is that battle for second in GT300. Remember, two different classes. GT500 at the front, GT300. Sort of a performance balanced class really now, GT300, although Sam was describing it to me as a performance box rather than performance balancing. It's a different way to look at it, and I need more time with Sam to make that work for my brain at this time on an Easter Sunday morning for those of us watching in Europe. And welcome if you are just joining us. You've missed a very frantic couple of laps. Double yellows, can't overtake there.
Yeah, and that's the new McLaren, the very probably the brightest coloured McLaren in the world, actually. This is an Itasha car, a painfully embarrassing car, it translates as, essentially, and it is painfully, embarrassingly slow, unfortunately for the boys in Woking. Their GT300 campaign this year doesn't look like it's going to be very successful.
Is that a 650?
No, I believe that's a 12C.
Alright, okay, still a 12C. So on to the start-finish line. Let's see if we can get through a full lap with these 300s. Across the start-finish line, down towards the right-hander at first corner. Then there's a quick blast into the fast left-hand corner at Williams. No, that we're not going to be able to see that because we've got too much fighting going on for the positions in GT500. Have you got any timing up yet, by the way?
I don't have any timing, John, I'm afraid.
So what we can see is what we can see. So this is the battle for 4th, 5th and 6th. Kunimoto, Hirate and Motoyama in the RCF and the S-Road GTR. Just sitting at the back there. That's the sort of silver and maroon car at the back of that grid. In front of them are the cars that are 2nd and 3rd. So we've actually got 2nd down to 5th position within the lead of the race at the moment. Still Andrea Caldarelli in the pole, sitting Tom's RCF. So all good news for him, of course, while these guys are battling furiously behind him.
No, I've only got the Super GT Fun book.
Excellent. Really useful. So still that prize leading in GT300, but the GT500 battle behind the leader, who is still pulling away, is what we're interested in at the moment. Live coverage of round 1 of Japanese Super GT. The BMW has been recovered back to the garage, Sam, but that does not look good at all.
No, it's nose in, and Terry Yarrow was just hopping out of the cockpit. They've got some repair work to do on that car, and they've lost a lot of ground. But people who are going to be losing ground in this Dartford Tunnel-esque traffic jam in the GT is all of the GT500 runners who aren't in the lead of this race right now. And they are getting seriously held up by the GT300 cars. But that's a feature of this championship, John. Everywhere, once the race gets underway a little bit deeper in, there's GT300s everywhere and GT500s everywhere, and it makes for this fantastic racing.
Battle for 5th position, and the GTR, the Nissan, coming down the inside into the first corner, gets that one and holds that position. That's a pretty decent overtaking manoeuvre, and still people clearly just looking for grip out there at the moment and trying to explore different areas of the circuit. Still very much enough water on the circuit to see it being thrown up behind the cars. Well, so that is not just damp, is it?
No, I'm just having a look down in the Nismo BMAX racing team pit area at the moment, John, and they have slicks ready, but the mechanics are showing no sign of limbering up or going anywhere
No tyre
near.
warmers allowed either.
No tyre warmers, exactly.
Those are full wets as well. There.
Those are full wets.
I wonder if they're on inters then.
I think so. I think the mechanics' seat there is a full wet, and they've got there. The mechanics are sort of half ready to do a stop, but I think they're waiting for that driver info that it's time, and there's clearly no dry line on this circuit at the moment as we go wheel to wheel with the second position cars batting for GT300.
Touch again.
Yeah.
This is the Gainer GTR, the darker of the two cars, the very orange CRZ for those of you in the States, is back into second position. That's trading paint and trading positions pretty much every other corner.
Here comes Godzilla's power.
Two minds, one thought there from Sam Collins of Race Car Engineering and me, John Hindorf. So back up into second place then. Shinichi Takagi sharing with Takashi Kobayashi on the Bridgestones, remember. And that is the battle for second place. The Prius has just disappeared. Koki Saga is way up the road.
It did very well. These conditions seem to suit that car, John. In warm-up, it started gapping it. And again, if you see this little Jaff GT300 car is gapping that GTR, as the GT500s come up to the front of the GT300 field, he's going to...
In less than 10 laps.
But, look at that traffic jam that they're going to as they go through that battling pack.
The GTR, the Tanax GTR, the number 10 car, Andre Kuto, is on Dunlops, by the way. Now, that is the S-Road. For those of you who played any of the driving simulation games, you'll be very much used to seeing the S-Road colours. This was just a few moments ago, down into the first corner, and the S-Road GTR making the best of some grip from the Dunlops around the outside. Of the Michelins, excuse me, on the S-Road.
We're getting a look at a battle.
He started down in 10th position, by the way, Satoshi Motoyama. So he's actually had a pretty decent run.
Yeah, I think this race is right now being defined by what's going on with these tyres. And I mentioned earlier about puddle hunting.
Yeah.
And what that is these tyres aren't designed. The wet tyres aren't designed for when the track starts to dry out like it is now, and so they start to overheat. And it wears them out really quickly as we see this battle for GT500 going on.
And that's 4th position now for Motoyama. He's right up to the back of Kunimoto in the Ineos RCF, another new car for this year.
It's exactly it's the first time. The Ineos car we've had for a few years now.
Okay, my apologies.
It's the GT300 Lexus, which is the GT3 spec car.
Right.
That we haven't seen on TV yet, actually. Haven't seen on camera, but we will see, I'm sure. But that car is the first ever race for it.
And that is a new 4th position. If the S-Road car can go through, it can. Very grey in the grey conditions that we have here at Okayama for the first round of the Japanese Super GT here on Nismo TV. Brought to you by the power of Nismo Global. # Eat, Sleep, Race, Repeat. Another big year for Nismo, of course. John Hindorf and Sam Collins with you. And got to say that the Kunimoto's qualified in second place. He's gradually being shuffled back, but what we don't know is the tyre strategy here. Although you were having a bit of a chat with some of your contacts to try and get some of the gossip from the pit lane from the early part of this from this meeting. It is the first round of a brand new series, but we've seen precious few at the moment right over the week as we check back in with the keepers. Tom's RCF. This is Andrea Caldarelli and is leading. Caldarelli in the lead from pole position. Precious few new car wars though for the new season.
No, well, we've seen a few problems. The Hondas haven't had unreliability, but they haven't had pace either, and Honda was struggling last year with both. So the Hondas are the weakest of the GT500 cars, as we see Rossiter recovering against the equally recovering Keihin NSX, the Raid Rig NSX GT500 Honda. They've not had the best time of it with this new rules because they decided to adopt this mid-engine philosophy. The other GT500s went for the front-engine philosophy. The car's designed to be front-engine, the chassis designed front-engine, so the Honda's always a bit compromised. But they've now sorted out their overheating problems that they had last year, so that's a big step forward. As we take a look at Daisuke Ito, who's looking like his fancies a go.
So settling into this, and delighted to say that other than the early problems for the BMW and a spin for James Rossiter, and indeed that dark blue car right ahead of him who had a half spin, precious few issues to talk about at the moment. This is 6th and 7th now in GT 500, which is a decent run from both of them to get back to there, if I'm honest, because they did struggle early on and must have dropped down to the back of the GT 500.
John, just a little bit of update on the GT300 runners there for you. A few laps ago, this is, we had that car we saw scampering off into the distance, the JAF GT car, the Prius, is now we managed to get a gap up of 19 seconds already, so he's gone. Yeah, he has gone.
And that is a Koki Saga. This car qualified in 5th position, so the one lap speed maybe not quite there, but absolutely stunning stuff from that little Prius that leads the GT300 field.
And well, it's not going well for the GTR there, as this Audi sports car in 4th position. This car was actually quickest in wet practice this morning, John.
And this is Richard Lyons is at the wheel of this, and this is the battle for 3rd position. And the Tanax GTR GT3 under pressure. You can't see the Audi behind it. That's a big Nissan, but the Audi cannot live with the Nissan on the faster parts of the circuit, out of Atwood and down towards the heavy braking area into the hairpin corner, which is called hairpin corner. Then there's the little left-hander at Revolver, which drops away nastily there. You can see that the camber on the road changes, and Richard Lyons will not be denied as he comes into Piper, and then they'll head slightly up the hill to Redman, the next left-hander, and then the long right-hander at Hobbs.
Well, we were looking at the drivers. The drivers were all looking at what we should have been looking at, which is the racer. And it's a...
Oh, he hasn't. Lyons couldn't get round.
It's not done yet.
Inside of the SLS, which is desperately trying to get out of the way of the Leon SLS, which was started by Haruki Kurosawa. That car started in 9th position in GT 300. And now they come round to Mike Knight corner, the left-hander, and a short straight before the last left-hander back onto the main straight where the bulk of the spectators are. That's where they are now. And it would seem as though that GTR survived for another lap.
It did indeed, John. Just looking at the car, the way Richard Lyons, the former, I think 2003 GT500 champion, British driver there, and he's got him now. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, has he? No. Oh, no, the GTR has Godzilla around the outside, you see. He's got that power as the GT500 cars are coming to join in the fun.
Well, that's the Moss S's now, and now into the braking area for this long right-hander at Atwood Curve. Number of different circuit configurations that can be used. This is the long one, the 3.7 kilometres, 2.3 mile Grand Prix circuit, as it is named. And now there's trouble for these guys because they're looking in their mirrors. They're trying not to get in the way of this battle that we've seen early on.
Oh, there's that troubled GT500 NSX there, John, as well.
Surprised that hasn't come into the pit because it just does not have the pace.
No, it's clearly suffering. I mean, it's being beaten up on by cars it really shouldn't be beaten up on. One thing I was noticing as we see Lyons get a great run on the exit of that corner is that he's getting a slightly better drive off. Yeah, that's what I was about to say, and he's demonstrated it by taking 3rd.
Yeah, nicely done there as he heads into 3rd position now. And everybody the spin for, was that the Leon SLS again?
No, I think it was the Leon SLS there in that same spot that we saw the study car off for a long time, so it's clearly treacherous there.
So Richard Lyons then. No, I apologise.
It's the treble one SLS, which is the RN Sports driven by Mr. Ueda.
Oh, well done.
Ueda-san. And here we have the first GT500 pit stop, John. I think this will be for tyres only.
So
that is the Saad car, which is the Kovalainen car, I believe, leaving the pits. We didn't actually see what he put on. Yep, that is the Team Saad Lexus making a stop, but we didn't see what boots he put on. Well, and that is the Kovalainen Hirati car, and I don't think they'd have made a driver change with only 14 laps in, John, so it's a shame we didn't see what he put on his car.
Well, what we can do... There's the hint of a dry line there, but nothing else. The windscreen wipe is still going on that Saad Lexus. Started in 7th position, the 39 car, the Denso Kobelco Saad RCF.
And this is the same team side, obviously, that's involved with Morand to come to the Le Mans 24 Hours this year. They are very keen to go and do LMP1 at some point fairly soon, I hear.
Everybody's ears just pricked up there. At Specutainment and at Racecar Engineer, we've got the tweet deck up. Russell Webb saying, I can't keep a straight face when we're talking about the Mike Knight corner. Hello, Michael. The S-Road GTR continues its move up the GT 500 field. Satoshi Motoyama really enjoying these conditions and able to position that GTR on the wetter side of the circuit. There's the Lotus, first time we've seen that, the white car there that was getting past. That's one of the new GT300 cars.
Now that's what we call a mother chassis car. So this shares an identical chassis and engine to the Toyota 86s we're seeing in the same class.
Except presumably the engine's in a different place on the Lotus.
In the Lotus, the engine's in the back.
Okay, so they've just spun this chassis round and put the bodywork on the opposite way.
Basically, yeah, but it's a bit of a clever idea where all these teams can have to use, if they want to do a mother chassis car, they have to use the same chassis, but they can use whatever engine they like, whatever tyres they like, whatever suspension they like, whatever gearbox they like. Or they can just buy kit parts from the organisers. It's actually a Nissan engine in that Lotus, and it's also a Nissan engine in the Toyota, but Toyota refused to accept having a Nissan engine in the Toyota, so it's badged a GTA engine.
I'm sure it is, yes.
Political reasons, but it's very much a Nissan V8 engine in that.
Now, looking at last year's champions, the Motor Lotec GTR, Ronnie Quintarelli started that car, and he has gained on the leader now, and it's been a gradual run back to the front of the field by the number one car. That's white and purple RCF with Andrea Caldarelli at the wheel, is the leader of the motor race. And now you've got to think that the tyre strategy is beginning to play out for perhaps people who started on Inters, didn't have the pace at the start, Sam. Now they're being able to utilise those a little more, whereas anyone who started on full wets might just be struggling a bit. And I would say that the Lexus, looking, you called it puddle hunting, I like that, looking for the damper part of the circuits, now gets back to driver's left, which is the correct racing line for the hairpin corner.
Yeah, but it's the S-Road GTR to keep your eye on there, John. He's come from 10th to 3rd in not all that many laps, and he's really on a mission. But the Motul GTR there now really getting up on the action there as well. If we have a look, I'm just trying to see. Yeah, this is the battle for the lead here, and he's really coming hoovering back up. And well, we know the Lexus is running out of tyre. Yeah,
I think the Lexus is running out of tyre. I think that's exactly what is going on at the moment. Now, diving backwards and forwards through the traffic might just be slight advantage to the car with the full wets on. It'll be cooling the Inters, but all the time that the cars are running around there, all the time that we've got this 40 plus car field, it's drying it out, and the battle for the lead comes across the line at the end of lap number 16. We start lap number 17, and there was just a little challenge there, wasn't there, going down into the first corner, down towards the Moss SS now, and you can see
this is like a go-kart battle, John.
It's quite clear to me that the Motul car, Ronnie Quintarelli, has got more grip, and he's been able to use it. You can see the body language of the Keepers Tom RCF with Andrea Caldarelli at the wheel. He's not even trying to get to the apex on a lot of these corners because he just hasn't got the car turning.
Well, Quintarelli just there on the exit of that corner, John, was just he was hopping around on the inside. I mean, it's darting around in the mirrors, and there's no way that Quintarelli cannot get by at this point.
And he's even feeling confident enough to go to the inside, to the non-rain line, and finding the grip there.
Candy from a baby, that.
New leader then, lap number 17, and that is last year's champion.
And this is where he checked out. Last year, this final race, Quintarelli disappeared off into the distance when this happened. However, still pit stops to come, driver change, not even at a quarter distance yet, John.
What we need to do is keep an eye, if we can, on the Kohai Hirate 39 car, which was the first of the 500s to come in. And I can't believe he went to slicks. He must have gone to Inters.
I've been trying to find out. Unfortunately, we didn't see it on the screens, and it's not appearing anywhere on my pit cameras either. So I don't have that information. The Michelin engineers, though, however, are getting very, very involved down at the Motul team as their car has taken the lead. And they have both slicks and wets lined up at the back of the pit wall. And no sign of a stop coming for them either.
Well, Motul on Michelin, the car that he's just gone by on Bridgestone. Is that an issue? Do we have different compounds? Well, of course we will. This is a full tyre battle, and this is a tyre battle that has cubic yen thrown at it. This is every bit as cut and thrust as it was in the years of tyre wars in Formula 1 or any other championship. That's the Takashi Kaguri.
That's the Modulo Honda, the new team, to replace the Dome team, which have left GT500.
And Ollie Turvey will be getting in that car later on. The red, white, black machine carving its way past the S-Road number 48.
No, that's Motoyama, who's now obviously... that's interesting. It looks like Motoyama may be running out of tyres because he's just got passed by two Hondas. And there is Turvey, waiting for his turn. No sign of getting ready to go in, so still some way away for the pit stop for the S-Road team. However, it does look like we are about to get the race leader in the pits in the coming laps. But what tyres is he going to go for? It looks like wets there, John. They are picking them up and selecting out the tyres.
Are they full wets or are they inters?
I am not familiar with those compounds from Michelin.
Those look like full wets. Okay, we just cut off it on the other feed that we have here. We've got our Snoop cam on... in fact, it's on the Nissan Motorsports Japan Ustream feed, if you want to have a look at that as well. But both of the Nissans we've been talking about, the 1 and the 46 on Michelin's, the bulk of their competition at the head of the field on Bridgestones. Yokohama for Lucas Ordonez and Daiki Sasaki on the D-Station GTR, the Advan car. And Bertrand Baguette will get into the Daisuke Nakajima Epson NSX. That is on Dunlops, the sole Dunlop runner in GT500. But that car has not had the pace early on. It's been running around rather slower than we would have expected.
Now, John, one thing a lot of people have talked about with these current generation GT500 cars with their 4-cylinder turbocharged 2-litre engines, and particularly in the case of the Honda hybrid as well, as there's a loose wheel. Somebody's lost a wheel somewhere, and it's one of the Hondas.
Now, that's interesting. Is that someone who's just been in and out of the pits? It's the 64 car, isn't it? It's the Bertrand Baguette car that I was just talking about. The Daisuke Nakajima, and that is a Dunlop wheel and tyre that is off towards the driver's right, running down towards... Now, where is that? That's coming...
That looks like between Revolver and Redmond to me.
I would agree with that.
And that's not a particularly easy place for the safety workers to get to. While we're sort of looking at what happens with this errant wheel from the Nakajima team, I did see, as we were watching that, one of the mother chassis Toyota 86 had come past with the rear end completely stoved in.
Right.
Still racing away, but serious damage on one of those GT300 GT86s.
Well,
so that's one to keep an eye on as well.
As you can imagine, we're concentrating, at least our director is concentrating on the battles at the head of the field. Pit stops imminent though for Nissan.
And that's the race leader there, John. That will be the Motul Ortec car coming in for fuel and possible driver change. It's a little bit early to change the driver, quarter distance, but if they're refueling at 20 laps, it means we're probably on for a 3 or 4 stop race here.
And Motoyama then dropping back, did get up as high as 4th position, now sits in 5th, and he's got the Calsonic GTR with Hironobu Yasuda going up the inside there at the hairpin, and that was very easily done. So he heads down to Revolver.
Well, you watch that, John, and I'm going to watch what's going on with the race leader making a pit stop, as I'm not sure we're going to see it coming.
Yeah, he comes. He's not coming this time, Sam. He's gone round.
Okay, yeah, I see that.
Past one of the Porsches there, a very much a GT3.
Oh, that was a late call there, John, because the crew chief there didn't expect him not to come.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Move the pit bull back out the way. I see no tyres yet, but this is definitely a stop for fuel, so it means we've got about 20-21 laps of fuel. It means it's a race of quarters.
What we've got to also keep an eye on is that Saad RCF, the Kohei Hirate car, Heikki Kovalainen will be jumping into that Bridgestone shod car later on in the race.
I'd say we'd probably expect those stops then about, if we know these cars, the fuel economy on most of these cars is about the same.
Right.
So I'd expect we'd see the driver changes around lap 43.
They do double stint, do they? Normally speaking.
Yeah, because it's only 20 laps, isn't that far for this sort of driver?
82 laps is the magic number. We are just over, or just on a quarter distance.
Now, the Motul Ortec team have all retired back into their pit garage. Now, what's going on here?
I wonder if he radioed in to say he had a problem. And maybe he thought he had a puncture.
They did have the dolly jacks ready as well, which why I was watching that quite so studiously. I wasn't quite sure what had gone on there, but they seem to have gone back into the garage. So, possible issues for the race leader. So, just keep an eye on that and see if that Drago NSX is actually recovering quite well. This is a car that had a spin earlier in the race for him with John. Well, he's moving back through the field quite nicely up to third.
Third position for Takashi Kagure in that 15 car, red, white and black.
Well, Honda need a good result. They've not had the best start to their motor racing campaign this year.
How important is it for these Japanese manufacturers to do well in their home series? Is it as important to them as it would be for DTM to the Germans?
Oh yeah, more though, as important, if not more so. This is the manufacturer battleground,
and it's big money.
It's very big money, but curiously, most of the money comes from the engineering and technical departments of those manufacturers, and not from the marketing department. So if we do get a look at the paddock, as there is definitely a problem on the race leader, John.
Yeah,
the left rear
sitting down and catching the ground. I wonder if he has got an issue then with. Yeah, he's got a tyre going. It's the left rear tyre, so he did have a puncture, and he waved them off. But that left rear tyre has gone on the Motul car. This is the defending champion car, and this is the leader of the race. Oh, or is it? Is that?
That's a suspension, I think, may have gone there, John. The tyre looks like it's got gas in it, so.
Or is it something even worse? Dare I suggest that's engine?
Oh, that would be cruel.
No, it's tyre. It's definitely coming out of the tyre area when he's braking. It may even be a hub problem there or a brake problem, but there's something definitely not right, and he's struggling with that car at the moment. This is Ronnie Quintarelli, who is driving the Motul car.
Their fire extinguishers at the ready.
I think he's got a brake fire.
I think there's a bigger problem, yeah.
I think he's got a brake fire there. There's something not quite right, and
the mechanics did not expect this. They expected it a couple of laps ago. They're not expecting it now, and he is going in the garage. Dolly jacks are out.
Drama then for the leader of the motor race on the end of lap number 22. So the lead will pass back then to the keepers Tom RCS of pole sitter Andrea Caldarelli, but he's under pressure himself now from the Drago Modulo NSX Concept GT. Takashi Kagure. Right, here is the Nissan into the pits. The fire extinguisher is on the left rear wheel as we expected. They're having a look underneath it. There's no great hurry here, Sam. This tells me that this car's going back in the box, and indeed it will go back into the pit stall. Disaster after they've fought through to the lead.
Well, I'm just trying to get...
It's a hub or a brake.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that tyre there, John. I think that's a more serious problem.
I wonder if he felt something and wondered if it was a tyre issue. Then it went away, some kind of vibration or something like that, but that looks like a binding brake or a hub or something like that.
Now, in theory, all of these GTRs are identical, so what befalls one may befall all of them.
So the battle for the lead now is between the RCF number 37 of Andrea Caldarelli and the 15 Drago Modulo NSX, the Honda of Takashi Kagure. Heikki Kovalainen due to get in that car. Those are two Bridgestone shod cars. The Lexus definitely has run out of tyres quicker than the NSX, which I wonder if that means they've gone for a different starting rubber. Side by side out the final corner and towards the start-finish line. And Andrea Caldarelli leaning on his competitor there as they go down to the first corner, but I think that one is over and done. And the NSX lead, that's the third different leader and the third different brands that's led. We've had the Lexus leading, we've had the Nissan leading, and now we've got the Honda leading.
It's fantastic to see. And you also got front engine versus mid engine there, John. Hybrid versus non-hybrid. It's proper racing, this. just looking at the Honda, I mean, I love the styling of this DTM rulebook. These are the same technical regulations used by the DTM. The engines are the 4-cylinder engines that the DTM will adopt, I believe, in 2017, but we'll see on track in 2016. And there's a lot of talk about the DTM cars coming and joining the fight. Just looking at the Honda has just left the Toyota there for dead, John.
I think that Lexus is in real tyre issues now, and they are in damage limitation mode. It's exactly what happened when the Nissan got up to him and then got away. He's still able to make the passes on the 300s, but he just hasn't got the punch out the corner, he hasn't got the grip out the corner, and he's looking for any bit of moisture at all on the circuit to try and cool those wet tyres down.
You get to a point, though, John, where it comes to the point where you're losing so much time, you're just going to have to change tyres, and whether that works with strategy or not, you're just going to have to put it in the box. And I think these Lexuses are really struggling. That's another Honda coming up on an Lexus. I mean, the Hondas are really working the tyres quite nicely here. And I do wonder if that's down to the hybrid system. The hybrid system needs
balancing it out.
Yeah, they have some clever management on the throttle control. Obviously.
That's the Naoki Yamamoto Raybrig NSX concept. Now, that was another car we saw had issues earlier on. Started in 9th position, now up to 3rd position as the Hondas gradually come to the front, and that's another Bridgestone running car. Meantime, another Honda that is making up ground is the Arta NSX concept started by Kazuki Matsuura, and he's just gone past the Nissan, the S-Road Nissan, the Motoyama car, so that will be for 5th and 6th position.
Well, John, there's a bit of a dispute going on in the Ortal GTR garage, Nismo garage, at the moment. One of the officials is holding up restart with a big cross on the front of it.
So don't restart.
I think that may be an indication to the crew that the car won't be allowed back out, but there is also a bit of debate going on within the Super GT technical scrutineers.
Right.
The team don't seem to be paying any attention to this, and they've switched off our camera, so we can't see what's going on at all anymore. But we still have this great battle now, and the Lexus is going to lose another place to a Honda. This is not going well. I mean,
there, and you could see, cause, I mean, he's trying to fight.
Caldarelli just needs to come in the pits. He's got to stop.
He's trying to fight, and he's just. I think it's as much the front as anything else. He just can't get the front of that RCF turned in. So Yamamoto then, from 9th on the grid, now up to 2nd position, and sets off in pursuit of the Drago NSX, the 15 car, with Takashi Kagure at the wheel. It's all going nicely Honda's way.
Yeah, and that's
well,
not the
500 at least.
That's not the way things look like at the beginning, as we look like we've got another team coming up to make a stop.
It's a good-looking car, that, isn't it?
I was about to say, these DTM rules cars now, they've got the 2017 4-cylinder engines in. They produce about 650 brake horsepower, maybe a bit more, and they are...
Zenith's team look like they're getting ready for Yuichi Tachikawa to come in.
Still a bit early for a driver change, I think, there, John. So it's this is a tyre-dominated race, and it's going to get really crunchy at the end, where the tyres are going to come out of sequence with the driver changes. So it's going to be quite a difficult race to call.
We still haven't seen anything of the Denso car, the 39 Kohai Hirate.
Oh no, I think there might be damage on that Zent car. I just saw some bits of carbon flying around as it came down the straight there.
There's our leader.
But just to look
carving through traffic.
But just look at this. The look of this car. This is the mid-engined Honda.
Dare I suggest it's a bit McLaren-like, particularly from the back?
Yeah, it is very McLaren-like from the back. Now imagine this and the other two Japanese manufacturers facing off against the 3 DTM manufacturers. Well,
you get very excited just thinking about that.
I do. It could still happen, and it could happen sooner than anybody thinks. Audi have been approached by one of the Japanese teams to run one of their GT500, one of their DTM cars in GT500. As we look at
this is the GT300 leader.
It's 23 seconds. At one point, he got the gap up. So it's down only. It's still around 23 seconds. Actually, he's gone. So
Toyota leads GT300. It's Honda at the head of GT500. The Zent team.
Are they slick?
Possibly. Meantime, back at the Motul team, that number 1 car is still in the box after we saw it come in with problems to the left rear. Looked like a hub or a brake problem. Thanks for the tweets at the moment.
Thomas Fellows makes a good point. Could the Lexus have started on wets better at the start? The NSX is on Inters is better now. That could be well what's happening.
I'm almost certain, Thomas, that is what happened. Is there a mandated driver change window? And are Toyota trying to stretch tyres to that point?
I think it's not so much mandated, it's a sort of realistic tyre and fuel window.
Thanks, Nick Holland.
I don't think these cars can do the full race on the fuel tank they've got, so they have to refuel. So if you can get your tyres and fuel in sequence, you make one fewer pit stop and lose a lot less time sitting in the pits. I think that's what they're trying to work out towards. But I don't think it's a good strategy.
7th position for the SLS there. This is the Good Smile Hatsune Miku SLS.
That's a Vocaloid, John.
It is a Vocaloid. Started by Tatsuya Kataoka. Yes, we've had all of our briefings on that from last year.
I was just talking a little bit about the DTM boys coming to play, and Audi were approached by one of their customers out here in Japan about running a DTM car in GT500 this season. Audi said no, because they didn't like the idea of balanced performance of their engine against the 4-cylinder, and they said also that their 4-cylinder wouldn't be able to go on track until 2016, and it's still under discussions there. However, Team Studi, the BMW team that had problems with the GT300 car earlier, are making very serious noises about one of the BMW, I think they're M3s or M4s now. M4 coupes coming from DTM and doing at least a couple of rounds in GT500 this year.
Motoyama then, Satoshi Motoyama again dropping back in that S-Road Mola GTR, the 46 car. And he's going to lose that position. He's in 6th at the moment, and James Rossiter in the Petronas car. The RCF is looking very racy indeed. After a spin, remember, on the first corner for James, didn't really get to the bottom of that as whether he jumped or whether he was pushed. Well, this is the battle for 6th and 7th position. The old over and under by Rossiter gets the power on coming out of the corner, and as he heads into the final 2 right-handers through Mike Knight and into final corner now, he will make that position stick. That was his teammate there, I believe.
There, it was certainly
Daisuke
one of the Petronas cars, yeah.
I think that was Daisuke Ito getting ready to get in the 36 car. Rossiter making good his escape there. Will be rather disappointed that he's not closer to the sharper end of things. Into 5th position there is the S-Road, the Motoyama car, struggling, and he's going to lose another position here, Sam, as the Zent car is coming up to challenge as well, as we're getting towards 30 laps now.
The GTR tyre strategy so far, John, hasn't
worked.
No, they've got the wrong tyres. Now maybe they're hoping for a bit more rain, but there is certainly a dry line now that you can see on this Okayama circuit. It's very dark tarmac, but you can certainly see that dry line. And well, yeah, that's an interesting conversation with the Michelin engineer, asking what tyre do you want, and the driver saying, I want this, and the Michelin engineer saying, I don't think you do.
Who was that about to get in?
That was the S-Road driver, which
I thought I saw a Union flag on the overalls there. It should be
Yanagida, so
it
that's
should
certainly
be,
not he also looked a bit too tall.
Yes.
Too tall for a...
that's very interesting.
Well, we'll see how that one pans out.
I haven't got another British driver to put in there.
There are 3 British drivers in this race, as we said earlier, but certainly...
not in GT500. There's not another GT500 driver other than... well, in which case...
Yanagida has certainly tweeted that he's in the car.
Yes, so that's rather thrown me out a little bit. Unless it was Ollie Turvey waiting to get in the Drago Modulo car.
Maybe they've got some S-Road sponsorship as well. I'm slightly thrown by that one.
He's the only British driver who's not in the car who's waiting to get in the car in GT500.
Unless, of course, it was Richard Lyons waiting to get into the
into the GT300.
into GT300 GTR.
Yes, that's exactly what it was. Well done. No, he started the car.
And he's in an Audi anyway.
He's in the Audi, yeah.
No, not quite sure about that one. Maybe you're seeing things.
Well, I am getting old now. There is the Calsonic, another classic sponsor of this type of racing, and coming up onto Andrea Caldarelli, who's dropped back through the field as well. Rio Hirakawa gets into that car. Where will it be? Stormed away from pole position, and Caldarelli looked like he'd made good his escape, but now Hironobu Yasuda in that Calsonic GTR on the Bridgestones, just reeling him in. 3 degrees higher in the air than it was when we started 30 laps ago. Sam's about to open the Super GT fun book, which I'm a little bit scared. And there is the battle for 3rd and 4th position. That keeper RCF right in the middle of that traffic jam, trying to battle against the Calsonic GTR. Looks like an unequal struggle at the moment. And the S-Road car about to lose another position there, as we get another look at the Lotus at the front of that picture. So the S-Road car has the Enios RCF, the number 6 car, right in behind him. That is Yuji Kunimoto, about to take a position, and does. And that's going into Revolver and down towards Piper here, left-hander. Piper heading up to Redmond now as the leader comes, the pole sitter comes across the line. Still waiting to see these front cars pit.
Exactly that, John. And it's the Hondas have got the tyre working. I mean, I think they must be on the intermediate, but there is a dry line, and it's going to cook. It's going to cook those intermediates as it can cook the wet tyre. Just looking.
So do you go on to slicks then when you stop?
I think I'd go on to slicks. Looking at the circuit, we're not seeing much spray coming off these cars at all. But I don't think anyone's quite had it. I mean, you can clearly see a dry line there.
Still 1 or 2 windscreen wipers being used.
That's because they're racing traffic. Here comes the S-Road GTR now. This will be an interesting stop. And he's going on to the wet Michelin tyre there, John.
Well,
Nice
that looks like a full treaded tyre.
Yeah.
Well, let's see what comes off. And it's a change as well. So that should be Yanagida getting in. And this is fuel first, tyres afterwards. So very much FIA and ACO style rules for those of you used to watching endurance racing.
You do have this slight anomaly that's slightly different. The mechanic, while he's waiting to be able to change the tyre, sits on the tyre ready to go on.
And remember, as you can see, no tyre warmers at all. Well, that's like for like, I would say.
Yeah.
They look exactly the same to me. That is going on.
You can't see it on the camera right here.
Oh, problem with the left front, and brilliant work by the chap on the right front to stop the driver pulling away. That is a lock nut problem that they've had there, and the car's going to have to come back up on its jacks. It came down too early, Sam.
Only stalled it.
Oh,
do you remember what I said about the sound?
Yeah, fantastic. The V6. Do these run V6 or V8?
These are 4 cylinders.
4 cylinders?
These are 4 bangers.
No way.
Yeah, turbocharged 4s. I think we should have a good listen to this here, because it's one of the best sounding series in the world.
Okay, Sam and I aren't going to talk anymore now. There's no point. There's no point in attempting it. We can't better any of that.
Yeah, that is a great set of sound. I was just watching, we didn't see in the pit stop there for the S-Road GTR, was the slick tyres. That I could just see them on a different sort of line of sight that I've got. They had the slick tyres waiting, and the mechanics holding them just in case the driver changed his mind. As speaking of changes, this is a change of lead, John, coming up.
Yes, this is the Drago NSX has finally been caught. We said that the Hondas were going very nicely, thank you very much indeed. And the Rearbrig 100 car started down in 9th position, still with both of these cars still with their starting drivers. So it's Naoki Yamamoto in the darker of the two cars, the bluey purple car in second place. The Drago NSX was started by Takashi Kagure. And they are very, very purposeful looking cars, these new NSXs. Some thought that we might see one of these in GTE spec if Honda can persuade the FIA and the ACO to allow hybrids.
I think it's silly not to let them allow it, but I don't think they will allow it as
he's
it
gone
goes
through
round the outside. Yeah, the Rearbrig car takes it. But that tells me that the tyres on the Modulo car, the red, white and black car have gone off. I think that's... But we're in that window now where a pit stop for fuel and driver is a good move.
These guys are miles ahead of the rest of the field. We haven't seen the gap. It's 5.5 seconds now back to the keeper RCF. It's losing time. The first of the Nissans is the 12, the Calsonic car with Hironobu Yasuda on the Bridgestones, interestingly. So it's Bridgestones at the head of the field.
Yeah.
The two Michelin-shored GTRs did not get the best run in that first, and it did look as though they went back onto the same wet tyres. I think these guys have all been on wet tyres, and what it's been about, Sam, is the durability of the wet tyre on a drying track.
I think that's exactly it. It's going to be very interesting now for these Hondas to see which tyre they decide to go on to as the Super Aguri Honda gets into the Calsonic Nissan there, and that's not done there, John.
No, it certainly isn't. The bright orange Arta NSX, the number 8 car, with Kazuki Matsura at the wheel, having a go at the Calsonic. And there's a change of position.
Yeah, the Hondas are working in these conditions really very nicely.
Neither of these cars have stopped, remember.
None of the Hondas have stopped, I don't believe.
No. The early stopper, remember, was the NSX of the Drago. Excuse me, no, it wasn't. It was the Sard. It was the Sard, the Denso car. Yeah, absolutely right.
I think they've got to stop again, John, because I don't think Kovalainen got in.
No, I'm sure he didn't. I think that was an issue with that car, either a tyre issue or something else that we didn't see. So coming up towards half distance in 6-7 laps time, with the Toyota Prius still leading. This is the 31 car of Koki Saga. Yuichi Nakayama waiting to get into that Bridgestone shod 31 Prius, leading in GT300.
Well, one thing to point out about those GT300 cars, John, particularly the Toyota Prius is a good example. It's very much a Pro-Am class, so you have one professional driver and one amateur driver. And in the Prius, it may be you've got the pro driver in there and the amateur driver will come in and not be as competitive, or somebody who is perhaps not been as competitive as he should have been, is someone we were just looking at there, is the young driver Izawa. He is Honda's young hope for the future for Formula 1, and he's really meant to be proving himself in this series, and it's not really happened yet.
How could a Turbo 4 sound so good? Formula 1 makes it sound awful.
Maybe Formula 1 should have listened to the Germans and gone for a Turbo 4. Well, looking down into the Motul Ortec pit, you can't see it on the screen unless you're watching the Nissan Motorsports Japan web stream on Ustream. There is still plenty of work going on the rear of that GT500 car, so it's going to be a while till they get back out.
And we're hearing from the track that it may be starting to rain again, and that may well be then the thinking behind going back to wets for that Nissan that we saw earlier on. Now, being able to stretch your tyre, of course, and this is the second place GT300 Audi at the moment. Richard Lyon started that car, but being able to stretch your tyres gives you that opportunity to assess the conditions. Wipers certainly going back on, and here's the NSX coming in. In the lane now, this is the 15 car, the Drago Modulo NSX Concept GT. Takashi Kagure will hand over to Ollie Turvey here.
And those are definitely treaded tyres, John.
Oh yeah, and they are full wets. There's nothing that is cut slicks about those. Quite square shoulders on those tyres, very chunky looking on the Bridgestones. And there indeed, confirmation then that Ollie Turvey is jumping in there. Very distinctive helmet colours for Ollie.
Well, at least being English, he's
He'd be used to the
rain.
I'm sure everybody always says that.
That's one of the small island nations, the United Kingdom, Japan. Quite similar weather in many ways, and it's almost always raining. Super GT photographers always joke that it's almost impossible to get a picture of one of their cars with sunshine.
So
just look at the aero treatment on the front of that Honda there.
Is
there, John. The little winglets, winglets on winglets.
I remember when end plates used to be somewhere you stuck a sponsor's name. This is sharpening multiple razor blades now, isn't it, when they're doing all that at the front. That's a fairly aggressive, wet-looking tyre, Bridgestone, that's gone on to the front of now Richard, of Ollie Turvey. And come on, get it out.
I would be very surprised to see that tyre last till lap 82, John. That's a very long way to go.
That's what they got.
Unless the rain really does start to come down.
It's 55 laps they've got to go on that.
As the Raybrig NSX now coming in for his fuel and tyres.
So he would have been scored as the leader. And now the keeper RCF's gone through as the leader as well. So it's another couple of lead changes. We've had 6 lead changes now between 3 different cars.
Izawa into the Raybrig. Remember, this is the young Honda Hope, so this is the one they've got quite a lot behind, but they do seem to have another young talent in GP2 this year, so it'll be interesting to see how he gets on. But the Honda is desperately trying to find a driver to put into its second Formula 1 team.
Second Formula 1 team?
Second Formula 1 team. Honda is also desperately trying to find a second Formula 1 team.
At the moment, I would suggest that they may not have very many people queuing up at the doors at Milton Keynes.
I think that's rather why there's only one at the moment.
Now, what's come off? That's wets that's come off and wets that's going on again. And again, full house wets. You see the wiper going. It's a pretty decent stop, though, from the Raybrig team. And spirited getaway.
I think next time we see one of these NSXs, particularly if we can get the stop and we can have a listen as they pull away, I think there's going to be a great bit of sound there.
Now, let's have a look in the background. And there is the lead. That is the effective lead, because just over on the right-hand side of that picture was the white, black and red.
I thought that was the Audi, actually. No, that's the Audi.
Yes, you're right. Very similar colour scheme.
That's the Audi being chased down by that little Lotus Evora, which I haven't seen very much of.
Now, he's dropped in behind. Is that the Arte?
There he is. Oh, so there's a big...
He's nailed him on that pit stop.
That's good.
And that was... it didn't seem to be a bad getaway then by...
Because
Turvey.
Because of no tyre warmers, it takes a long time to get up to speed on these tyres, John. So, they're happy.
Seem to think they've done a decent stop, and he's done a decent stint. So what we need to see now is what this outlet lap is.
Now we've got a GT500. That's the Calsonic GTR in. Now, I'd quite like to have a listen to this as it pulls out of the pits, John.
Right, Yasuda getting out and D'Oliveira getting in. This man was tipped for greatness. D'Oliveira, I actually thought he'd be part of the LMP1 squad.
I'm surprised with his Super Formula racing. This is the Japanese Formula 1 style championship. He's one of the top drivers in that series. I'm very surprised to see he's not in a more international class, to be honest.
Oh, and a drive-through penalty for the RCF. Now, we don't know why. This is the James Rosner car. We might get an idea now. This is going to be avoidable contact then, isn't it? Comes from a long, long way back there on the GT300 Nissan, and he's going to spin him, and that is going to be the issue.
It's the 48 car he looped there, John.
It's Hiroshi Takamori in the Yokohama Shod 48 Dijon Racing car.
Well, unfortunately, that replay meant we didn't get to hear that GTR drive away. And they're still... now. This is quite interesting. The Motul Ortec GTR is back on pit road, despite the man with the little restart cross saying, "You gotta restart." I think the team are going to do it anyway, even though he's standing in front quite sternly.
They've dropped over 10 laps now.
I do wonder if we're going to get to see the car fire. So we are just watching what you can't see on screen as you're watching the Calsonic, its sister car, the Motul Ortec GTR, which had problems. Now he's been given permission to restart. He's got the green board as the Petronas Lexus comes in for his drive-through.
Yeah, he will not be allowed to do his pit stop here.
Now, Ronnie Quintarelli, who was in this Motul Ortec car, got out in the garage earlier and handed over to Rio... No, he didn't. Tsugo Matsuda. As we see... that's not the drive-through for Rossiter there. They're doing actual stop there, John.
I wonder if they're going to do the stop, let Daisuke Ito go out and come straight back in.
Yeah. It'd be good to have a listen to this car as it goes.
All right. We'll turn the effects right up then. So Rossiter out. Daisuke Ito in.
Long fuel stop, so that's fueling to the finish. Lap 40, exactly right.
Here we go. Tyres. Do you know what? Those Bridgestone Potenza wets don't look that bad. Here we go.
It's a good sounding car.
Very different sound though, isn't it? You can tell them apart.
Yeah, the Honda particularly sounds very different. Engine in a different place, of course, but the GTR, very fine sounding machine as well. So, but yeah,
and are these all purebred racing engines?
These are purebred. They're called the NRE, Next Racing Engine.
Of course they are.
Yeah, with a very, very compact 2-litre 4 cylinders, huge power being kicked out of 650 brake horsepower. It's lovely in the back of a prototype.
Oh dear me, Ollie Turvey right on it very early on.
He's got something to prove, hasn't he, Turvey?
Well, he's dropped down to 10th position, but don't forget they were battling for the lead before the pit stops. In now, the number 8 Arctic Concept GT NSX, Kazuki Matsura handing over to Tomoki Najiri. As the Ray Brick car is out and running.
He's got a long way to go. 1 minute 23.2.
That's more like it. I was going to say the Nissan was a sort of very downplayed.
Oh, that's because that's a GT300 Nissan.
Right.
It's a GT3 spec Nissan. So that's what your road car would sound like.
Okay.
Where the one behind was the Honda, which is GT500, and that's what your road car would sound like if you stood on its tail.
It does look like it's wet again out there.
It's definitely raining there, John. There is big spray now coming off some of those GT500 cars, and I think some of them might get a bit of a shock when they come to press the brakes.
Yeah, and now we will see the Rainmeisters. Now, who got into the Keepers Tom's RCS? It was Ryo Hirakawa, wasn't it, who took over?
Now, we haven't seen the Sard car back to the pits, which is surprising. He's up to 4th position at the moment with one stop
This is
done.
the 39 car.
That's right.
In fact, I'll take that back. The Keeper RCF has still got Andrea Caldarelli at the wheel. The circuit having come back to him now as it gets wetter, of course. But this is extremely wet now as the Calsonic car now in the hands of Takuya Izawa, this young Honda hopeful, goes through.
This is going to be quite interesting to see how the different conditions now are going to suit the different cars. I would not be too surprised to see these Hondas falling back, and as we saw earlier, the GTR starting to come back into it as it gets wetter.
That was that the Arctic car has just gone by to Tomoki Najiri. If that car has stopped, not seeing all of the pit stops, of course. They do sound fantastic. Now, here is the leader then. From pole position, well, it's been an interesting 42 laps, hasn't it, for Andrea Caldarelli. He cannot hang on to the lead, though. The pace just wasn't there. He'd been shuffled down to, 3rd, 4th position. And Ryo Hirakawa standing on a Little mat there to keep the soles of his boots nice and nothing worse than damp or slippery boots on pedals. In it comes. Caldarelli out.
Hirakawa in.
That was nicely done, wasn't it? You can only do that when you're of a certain age.
Yeah.
It's me getting in and out of a GT car, even a GT3 car with very wide openings, is not that quick nor that athletic, I'm afraid. Those days are long gone.
Well, we had a very
agricultural.
Not seen on screen. We had a very standard pit stop for the B-Max Nissan GTR. Kazuki Hoshino gave way to Mitsunori Takaboshi, right, and put on a new set of Yokohamas.
Oh, that is very wet out there now into the second half of this 82-lap race, and Sam's prediction that the GTRs at the head of the field might start to find their pace again seems to be coming through. Here's the 37 car coming out.
Well, what's that behind him, John? Oh, it was a couple of GT500s. We didn't side by side. We didn't see who they were, but it certainly wasn't these guys who are off halfway around the lap now. So it's
still waiting to see the GT300s come into the pit lane. Typically, they go a little bit longer.
We've seen they are coming in. We're just not seeing it. That's what I sort of.
Okay.
We've seen a few of them coming and going. So that battle will be upset. The Prius hasn't stopped, as nor has the CRZ, and as I say that, the CRZ and the Audi come in absolutely together, John.
And that then, by my reckoning, is the 55 car, so that'll be Kobayashi taking over from Shinji Takagi, and the Audi then,
that's Richard Lyons
handing over to
Tomonobu Fuji. Now, Tomonobu Fuji was the quickest in wet conditions this morning.
Was he?
In that class, so he is one to watch.
And they are absolutely pitted together in the pit lane with the CRZ just one pit stall further up towards pit out.
So what you have there, John, is a purpose-built racing car.
Yes.
With very little of the road car left in it, a bit of the roof, a bit of the floor, and a bit of the bulkhead.
This is the CRZ.
CRZ, with a road car, pure production-based Audi behind it. So that's a really different type of car.
Albeit a very highly developed GT3 version of that. But
indeed.
Still.
But both racing in the same class at the same time. Now, that was a much quicker pit stop for the Honda there than they had for the Audi.
That was basically down to fuel. It took less fuel.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they're planning another stop.
It took much less fuel by about 4 or 5 seconds. And the bright orange and black 55 R to CRZ GT has been handed over then, and it's Takashi Kobayashi again on.
We also had the Zent Lexus in for a stop, and he has just been passed by the Calsonic GTR, but did get in front of the Aguri Autobacks car, but because of his cold tyres, look, there goes the Aguri Autobacks straight back past the Lexus there.
And this is the 38 GT 500 car. Hiroaki Ishiura now taking over that Bridgestone shod car from Yuji Takikawa, and that is really struggling on the outlap, exactly as Sam pointed out. The bright red, or actually not bright red, it's a sort of a
I think it started out brighter.
Yeah, it's an interesting colourway.
It's a bit dirty now.
And off has gone the Lamborghini.
That is, I believe,
right front wheel has gone. Left front wheel has gone. This is the Manepa Lamborghini, started by Manepa Oradu, Kazuki Hiramine.
The wheel arrived before the Lamborghini did.
Never a good day when different parts of your car are doing different lap times.
Big hit on the wall. I mean, you see when these wheels get loose and how...
Exactly at the same place that the wheel came off the car earlier on.
Well, it's unloaded at that point, so he's just about to turn in. Look at the hit that wheel gave that straw bale. I mean, those marshals are quite lucky not to encounter that themselves. But
the Kubota snatch tractor, a little tracked vehicle, already out there.
That's going to hurt the diffuser on that car.
Still no full course cautions yet, although double yellow's been employed there on the rundown from Piper to Redmond It's lap 46 in the midst of the pit stops, which means that the Yuhi Segiyuchi driven Yokohama Shod Wedsport Advan RCF leads it, but yet to stop. So the leader on the road, believe it or not, is the keeper RCF, the car that was on pole position. So after all of that and losing ground 6-7 seconds back, Andrea Caldarelli did a cracking job when the rain came back. Now Hirikawa at the wheel, Ryo Hirikawa at the wheel, is the effective leader, but he's got pressure, and he's got pressure from that's the Reybrig 100 car, which is now Takuya Izawa, and that is the battle for the lead on the track.
Well, something we haven't seen, John, on screen, and I'm not quite sure what's happened, but the Zen car, the Team Sard car, I believe, not the Zen car, the Denso car, I believe has lost some ground when it should really have made up ground when everybody else stopped.
Pitted.
Yeah, because they're out of sequence.
Unless they've stopped again.
No, they certainly haven't. We've only got a little one next to their name. The little blue ones, the little blue numbers underneath the team names. As you see, the Denso... Oh, no, they did stop again. You're correct. So it's dropped to 9th. So that stop for the Heikki Kovalainen to get into the car, and he has now done.
And he will be in that car now, yeah.
Was the first stop. We don't know what the cause was.
I still think that was a tyre issue. Almost certainly. And whether that was the wrong tyres on, maybe they did go for Indus, because that car was slow.
Yeah, it stopped
on
lap 20, and we just saw it leaving the pits rather than entering it.
So this is the battle now for... Well, it is actually the battle for the lead, because I'm fairly certain that I saw the Wedsport Advan car of Yuichi Seguchi going into the pit lane. The Lamborghini's been pulled to a place of slightly more safety.
I'm not entirely sure I'd agree. I'd say slightly less safety, but Japanese motorsport has a different attitude to certain things. And
so this is, at the moment, second position, but these are the first of the pit stoppers, so this is effectively the battle for the lead. If the Wedsport Advan RCF is still out, they've done a cracking run to do 47 laps as they go across the line. That's what the graphics are telling us.
Now, I'm not sure if we've seen, because we haven't had the graphic up, I'm not sure we've seen the GT300 leader in the pits yet.
No,
that's a very long run for that Prius, so I'm pretty sure that's their pro driver in first, and they will get the second driver in. Now, I've been to the workshop of the Prius there, the 31 car, and it is a proper old school racing workshop with a bunch of guys building a car as it should be. It's not clean and tidy and modern. It is, as you'd expect, an old school tuner racing team to be. They are absolutely the heart of what it's all about. And here is, in fact, this car, the Green Tech Prius.
Coming in from the later GT3.
And this car does actually use the hybrid system from the road car.
Much the same as the Nismo Nissan Leaf RC that you and I have both driven.
Indeed.
Which is effectively very similar to the GT300 running gear. Now they did tyres at the same time as they were fueling. Certainly on the front at least.
And now they're waiting. That's interesting, you're right. Maybe they did the tyres before they fueled.
Right, they did the fronts before they fueled, and they'll do the backs after. Because it's difficult to get the driver in where the fuel hose is.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll buy that one for $1. Jake Holland saying that the car that we were talking about, the Kovalainen car,
Team Sarge,
went for Inters early on, and the rain came back. So they've had to stop again. Kovalainen now in that car. Their strategy may yet play out. They should be able to make the end, but I think everybody else can as well. That's the problem, Sam.
I think anybody who stopped sort of lap 40-ish. Some of them who stopped a little bit earlier, I think, may struggle at the end of the race to keep those wets alive if it starts to dry out again, which it...
That looks like it's set in. It's going to take a long time for that to dry out. Did see one or two cars leaving black marks on the circuit.
But that pit stop has seen a change of lead in GT300, and the number 21 Audi has taken the lead, John.
Because he hasn't stopped yet.
He still hasn't stopped. Okay.
Correct. That is the 21 car is the Richard Lyons car, and no, hang on, didn't we see the Lyons car in the pits?
We've seen that, yeah.
So it's Tomonobu Fuji at the wheel of that car. So that is a genuine change of lead then.
I believe so. The ticker is in the wrong place, unfortunately.
But how did he get past the Arta CRZ? Because that car was in the pit lane as well.
It may have been during that scrap for the GT500 lead that we just didn't see it on screen, but they normally show it.
Right.
That Wed Sport car, John.
Is he still out there?
He's still out there.
Well, I thought I'd seen him in the pit lane 3 laps ago. That's don't take any notice of me. This is the Wed Sport Advan RCF running the Yokohamas. Yuhi Segiuchi will hand over to Shuichi Wakisaka.
The Wed Sport team run by the son of the series organiser.
Getting at the moment their time at the head of the field, although we haven't seen that 19 car. Focusing here on the Calsonic number 12. This is D'Oliveira at the car. Now there is another Audi, so I wonder if that was a different Audi that we saw in earlier on then.
This is the works endorsed Audi, shall we call this one? And this is the team that we're looking at running the GT500 car.
Is that the Racing Tech car?
No, the Hitsunomiya.
Okay.
If I pronounced that correctly, because I don't. Well, great battles there going through the field. We've got GT500 fighting through GT300.
So that was Richard Lyons. That was the 21 car. Came into the pit lane, so it wasn't the 21 car that we saw earlier on then. That must have been the other Audi that was in the pit lane. They must be running similar schemes then.
I think it's the Audi Sports customer racing default setting, isn't it?
That would now make sense that they stayed out, got the lead. That will put the 31 car back into the lead as they come around next time with Yuichi Nakayama at the wheel. Meantime, at the head of the field with 32 laps remaining. This is going over like the clappers. No full course cautions yet. Despite the bad weather, the crowds have turned out at Okayama. Not an easy place to get to. It's Nismo.tv with live coverage of the Japanese Super GT. Race car engineering, Sam Collins with me, John Hindhoff. There is the 37 car. And that car has now been passed by the NSX. We said that effectively was the battle for the lead, and that Wed Sport car has pulled into the pits. So this is now the leading car, the dark purple blue car, through the hairpin and heading down towards Revolver. The keeper car, the
it's
37.
It's getting a lot wetter, John. The cars are beginning to kick about a lot. You just watch the rear end of those GT500 cars, and the camera cut just at the wrong point. Those of you who are watching as I was speaking there will know what I'm talking about. And there he is
on SLS.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant piece of camera work. Unfortunately, it cut away at the wrong point.
Piper Corner has been a place that has claimed a number of incidents. So now, can the keeper, the 37 car, Ryo Hirakawa, can he keep that young charger, Takuya Izawa, very highly thought of in Honda circles, this young man?
Let's see what he can do on track.
Is this seen then as a stepping stone for greatness, if you can do well in this?
Very much so. I mean, in some cases they see this. If you go to the Amlux Toyota sort of museum / showroom in Tokyo, you won't see a LMP1 Toyota, you will see a GT500 Toyota in the motorsport section. Here we get a nice look at the 3 different types of GT500 car. Nismo GTR at the front, followed by the Honda and the Lexus.
Honda, all the way through this race, the NSXs have been able to choose their line with far greater impunity than the other cars. The Calsonic car then in 3rd position, taking very much the rein line there through the upward curve, now down the long back straight towards the corner that's called hairpin curve. Right-handed hairpin, starting to fall away just after the apex now. And then up over the rise into the tricky revolver. Piper is the next left-hander. Try and be patient on the throttle here. So you head slightly uphill now.
That Mercedes SLS is still off the line there, John, just waiting for an opportunity to rejoin us.
Redman, another left-hander. And this one again is the one that can catch you out as the camber changes just on the exit. Through Hobbs, the right-hander, double apex right-hander. Short squirt of power to Mike Knight corner, which is the penultimate corner. Pit lane entrance on the right there, and then the last corner is called last corner. The flags go up for the Arctic car, the bright orange and black Honda as it comes across the line. This is very much a Japanese tradition. You wave the flag when your car comes through. We've seen this at Fuji for the FIA World Endurance Championship. So looking forward to going back to that race again this year.
It's one of the best in the calendar, I think. I mean,
yeah, I agree.
Japan just knows how to do motor racing.
No, absolutely agree.
And for anyone who's
fanatical fans as well.
Absolutely. For anybody who wants to sort of likes the idea to go out and maybe see one of these races, absolutely try and get out to Japan and go to one of these Super GT races, because you'll be made very, very welcome.
I was talking to Fred Gallagher back end of last year. We were working on Race of Champions together. Fred, as many people would know, former World Champion Rally co-driver, and now on the rallies committee for the FIA, does like to get around and see some other events. And he said, right, come on, which of the WEC events should I go to? And I said Fuji straight away.
Look, we can just see this Toyota 86 mother chassis car in front of the Honda there.
Oh, that's
and
the white car.
Yeah, the whole rear end is stoved in on it, as you can see from the back.
Yeah.
Now, we never saw what happened to it, but the rear wing is hanging off, the diffuser's all pushed in.
I think we could describe that rear aerofoil as a jaunty angle.
Yes. And it's just been carrying on like that for... He must have been in the pits and come back out as well in this time, so...
Fine, it works better around right-handers than it does left with it leaning over like that, I'm sure.
Fortunately here at Okayama, not too many left-handers to worry about, but the Williams corner does look a bit of a challenge for that car.
Well, I hope you're enjoying the sights and the sounds of the first round of the Japanese Super GT from Okayama, Nismo TV, powered by Nismo Global, Sam Collins and John Hindhoff. This has been a fascinating race. And at the head of the field, the rear brig Honda NSX, now in the hands of Takuya Izawa, leads. This is the battle for 4th and 5th, with the Arta NSX being just stretching away a tiny bit from the Zent RCF. The Hiroyuki Ishura driven car. Now there is the Heikki Kovalainen driven Denso Sard RCF, easy one to pick out. And that car, remember, rather made a Horlicks of its tyre choice earlier on and has had an extra stop, but now in 8th position. Kovalainen getting his head round the machinery.
First ever sports car race we were talking about for Heikki Kovalainen. Do we think that's the
really
case? Can we think? I mean, this is one for
collective.
Yeah,
collective wisdom required here. Heikki Kovalainen, has he raced a sports car? So, I was thinking about Richard Lyons.
He's raced sports cars.
He's raced sports cars before. Who else did we think might be new?
Turvey, but
I'm sure Ollie Turvey's raced a sports car.
I think he's been in a Von Ryan McLaren. I think you're right.
I think I remember him at the Nürburgring.
Well, the rear end on that SARS Lexus, in fact all the Lexuses, the Zent one they were seeing as well, looks a little bit loose.
What, in terms of how it's handling,
yeah,
rather than the bodywork?
Yeah, the Lexuses, or Lexi, seem to be a little bit loose on them. Just to come out of the turns, or just on the apexes, you see the back ends moving a little bit more than you do with the Hondas or the
But
Nissans.
the Hondas have taken different lines all the way through this race, wet or drying, and we haven't.
You have to remember it's a mid-engine car, so
correct.
It's got slightly different weight
dynamics.
distribution. Yeah, so it works slightly differently as a car. We haven't spoken about the GT300 class in a little while, but I have a sneaky feeling that there is a little bit of a battle spoiling up the front of that class. Just one to keep an eye on next time the ticker goes past.
Shuichi Nakayama is in the 31 car, which leads as we see Honda NSX down the inside of that Zent RCF, and that is a change of position. The Zent car now in the hands of Hirori Ishira, so that's Ollie Turvey now up to 5th position.
I think that Mercedes has finally found its way back to the pit.
Yeah, good spot. Well, thanks for joining us in the early hours of the morning here in Europe. The weather looking very British at the moment from Okayama, with rain this morning. Dried up for the start of the race. It wasn't actually rain falling, and we did get somewhere close to, if not a dry line at least, around the circuit, but the rain has returned. It's wet tyres for Bridgestone, Michelin, Yokohama and Dunlop, 4 tyre companies, remember, represented here in Japanese Super GT. A real tyre war.
That's the...
There's your leader.
Yep, the Honda NSX, driven by Ozawa. Now, I wonder, the rain seems to be coming and going. Will they be able to hold on to it?
Well, 55 laps in the book. Where's Izawa coming from? You said he was Honda's next big thing and possibly tipped for a Formula 1 seat if Honda can persuade anyone else to take their power unit. So what is his background? Is it a classic background for him?
Yeah, he's very much a traditional come up the Japanese ladder, sponsored by Honda the whole way.
He has raced in GP2, has he not?
I believe he will be racing again this year in GP2. He finished last year's GP2 championship in 21st position, didn't get a full season. Sorry, that was making a mistake there. That was Formula Nippon. He didn't get a full season in and didn't really deliver, but he has definitely raced in GP2. And in 2014 did the full season and had
with
a best
finish.
Yeah, with best finish was 3rd, and he was 18th overall in the championship. So
no stranger to tin tops either, having had a run out in the Honda Racing Team Jazz. Now again, that's all Honda, so that tells you all you need to know. He's clearly blessed by someone higher above.
He's raced for quite a long time in this GT500 class of Super GT since 2007. He had his first race at Suzuka.
How old is he?
He's only 30.
And is he still being touted as a Formula 1 driver at 30?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, good for him.
So I think that's probably... I mean, this is why they were putting him into GP2 last year, 29-year-old in GP2.
To learn the circuit.
Yeah.
Tipping down a rain. Battle for 4th and 5th now. The Art NXX and the Ollie Turvey driven Drago NSX. Honda on Honda action here then, with Ollie Turvey in the car with the white front end, the Arta colours, the classic fluorescent orange and metallic grey or black. A lot of these sponsors involved in automotive products, particularly like Autobacks and these people. If you drive through any medium-sized city in Japan, you'll see the shops and you'll see very familiar logos, and that is Ollie Turvey going through and does make it stick in the early part of the lap through the Moss S's.
That was quite easy move. I don't think that was fought contested too hard. Autobacks, for anyone who's not sure, is essentially the equivalent of Halfords.
Yes.
And I think it's no great surprise that what was once Team Halfords is now the Honda Works team in the British Touring Car Championship, which starts in a few hours.
Down at Brands Hatch, Andy Prior returns to the championship in the IHG Rewards Club WSR BMW and claims pole position on his return. That is the mark of a multiple world champion. Been out of a series for quite a long time, a series that's seen a lot of changes, but they always say, don't they, form is temporary, class lasts forever.
Well, one driver that may be classed, that the name you probably haven't heard yet, Nobuharu Matsushita. He's not in this race, but we will see him in GT500, possibly even as early as late this year in one of the Hondas. He is Honda's next Izawa. Now, he's much younger, age 21, who won the Formula Challenge Japan, which is their equivalent of Formula Renault, but they use a Nissan badged engine rather than the Renault.
Okay.
Then All Japan Formula 3, 5th position. Then last year's All Japan Formula 3, you saw him race at Fuji, having that fantastic battle just before the WEC race.
That was outstanding.
Absolutely. It's probably on YouTube somewhere to have a hunt around for, but it's worth
and it's
watching.
the only time I've heard a press room in unison hold its breath and then have the expunging of emotion and, quite frankly, disbelief at some of the overtaking manoeuvres that were going on. It's the only time I've ever seen that in an F3 race ever. It's the most exciting F3 race I've ever seen.
It was a fantastic race. Well, Matsushita won that race, and he also was the quickest in the GP2 series test, I believe, that was earlier this week.
Is he any relation to other Matsushitas who've raced in the past? They, of course, were Panasonic family as well, weren't they, Matsushita?
That's correct. They were the Panasonic family. I have no idea if he is any relation to Hiro Matsushita. And it doesn't help us there at all.
Okay. If you know, at Specutainment or at Race Car Engineer, Russell Webb saying agrees with you about Autobacks, but he says Autobacks carries a bit more weight than Alphins. Yeah, it's probably right. No record, says Chris Whitfield of Kovalainen racing a sports car, all open wheel stuff. Although he did test a DTM BMW, but
is a DTM? See, a GT500, I guess. I think we'll have to call them sports cars.
It's an interesting conundrum, isn't it? Because endurance racing is generally thought of as a sports car type thing, but you can do endurance racing in touring cars as well. Very much so.
Is this a touring car or a sports car race?
Well, I'd say this was a sports car race because you've got sports cars in it. And just because what's at the head of the field... Well, no, I think
the Honda's a sports car.
The Honda NSX is a sports car. The GTR is a sports car. I'm not sure how you class the Prius. That's just a bit of... That's a marketing exercise, isn't it?
Something completely different.
Lotus is a sports car. GT86 is a sports car.
I think that Lotus is a beautiful looking car, especially in this specification. First time out for this car, sponsored by Petronas Cintium. But it used to be, this is the team that previously converted a Riley Daytona prototype into a GT300 car. So this team is known for doing slightly different things.
So this is one of the standard monocoques and engine packages with Evora-like bodywork.
Absolutely, yeah. And so they've gone for there's nothing on that car manufactured by Lotus apart from maybe the badge on the nose.
Okay.
But the project, I believe, has the blessing of Lotus, and the team owner is the Lotus importer for Japan.
Ah, that then makes sense. Here's the battle for third now. It's Oliveira and Turvey. Calsonic GTR then in the hands of Oliveira. Very highly thought of by Nissan in Japan. Maybe slightly blotted his copybook at the end of last season when he caused an accident, I think, in the last round of this championship, if I'm not mistaken. Rear-ended... In fact, was it not Turvey that he rear-ended?
It wasn't Turvey.
No, it wasn't.
It was Rossiter, I
believe. It was James Rossiter, it was. I knew it was one of the Brits.
Yeah.
Side by side, then down the hill in the braking area, and that will be a pass for Ollie Turvey in the NSX. Oliveira is toughing it out on the outside and gets it back. Nicely done. Now onto that was the exit of Atwood, and they're heading now down to the braking area at the hairpin. Short squirt to the left-hander Revolver, then to Piper, left-hander, then a slightly longer straight to Redmond. That's Revolver. This is Piper now, the left-hander. Oh, great run off Piper by Ollie Turvey, but unfortunately he won't be able to get through on the inside of Redmond. Now, can he get himself in position through Hobbs' corner here? Does the cut back on the inside, trying to get the power down. 2 more corners to go in this 61st lap. This is Mike Knight corner, and then into the last corner now.
He ran out of grip there, John.
Really did.
And that's the Petronas Lexus in the garage. We didn't see that happen.
That's Rossiter's car. He started it. Daisuke Ito took that car. They were running well up, mate.
Yeah, that's a bit of a happening. One car I've just spotted, it's running 11th in GT300. We haven't seen it on track, but it is out there. Is the Cintium branded, the Petronas branded Lexus RCF GT3. And we haven't seen it running there, but being Cintium branded suggests that Tom's team are involved in it, and Tom's is obviously a Works Lexus team, which is the car we saw pushed into the garage just now in GT500.
Super GT stuff says, surely this is solely a sports car race, as GT500s are effectively pseudo prototypes. Okay, I'll buy that.
I'd agree with that. So DTM then is a sports car race.
It's not long enough though, is it? That's I suppose it's a sprint race. Yeah. Well, they're all based on 4 doors now, though, aren't they?
Yeah. I think there's no 2 doors. No, I think there's 2 doors. No, they are 4 doors, aren't they? They're the same shape and size as these, so it's a bodywork.
It's
job.
A marketing.
Yeah.
It's marketing rather than anything else. I mean, get used to seeing cars like this in ACO racing, because for my money, this is what LMP1's going to graduate to in the next iteration, or possibly the iteration after, because manufacturers want to see the cars that win Le Mans looking more like their street cars. I'm not saying they'll be exactly like this, I'm not saying they'll use these rules, but I think you'll see cars that look more like street cars, more like an LM GT, if you like, or a GTP. We've had that nomenclature before. I think this is where we could possibly be going. Not, and I stress, not necessarily exactly these cars or these rules, but something that looks more like a street car.
I'd like to see one of these cars at Le Mans, and the organiser of Super GT, Masaki Bando, did make a request that the last year's champion, Nissan, would be allowed to run in this year's Le Mans 24 Hours with the GT500 car.
Ollie Turvey up to 3rd position, now ahead of the Calsonic car. The NSX Concept GT, the 15 car, which started in 6th position. And this is the typical, there's somebody there, let's dive down the inside, can't get through, let's go one either side. Yes, I remember a certain Formula 1 race at Spa that I was commentating on, where that happened on the Kemmel Straight.
You call that the Zonta moment?
Remember that?
I do. Ricardo Zonta in the Honda.
Getting past one either side.
Yeah. By Hakkinen and Schumacher.
Well remembered.
I was there.
I was there commentating for Bernie Vision.
This is good sounding cars. These are really good sounding cars.
So we're into the money laps now, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us on Nismo.tv for this first round of the GT, Japanese Super GT Championship. Sam Collins of Race Car Engineering and me, John Hindorf. This is 2nd place. This is Hirakawa, who is being chased down now by Ollie Turvey. And watch the gaps at the ticker at the top of the screen. The leader has checked out just a little bit. Takuya Izawa in the Reybrig, the 100 car, the NSX. But the battle very much on for 2nd position. And we have yet to see what happens with tyre strategy, because it could all still change. If it rains harder or it stops raining, we've seen the massive differences that can make to performances.
Well, I get the impression, John, that the rain might have stopped a little bit. We've lost a lot of the gloom. The spray seems to have gone.
I'd agree.
It doesn't look like they're racing outside of a Tupperware box. They are. I think the lap times are beginning to reflect it as well. 34s, 33s on the board.
Top 3 all on Bridgestone.
Yeah, the Bridgestone tyre does seem to be the one to have at this track in these conditions. Yeah.
And that will change. All of the cars as well at this time. And we should have mentioned this earlier on, but this is probably as good a time as any. What we're seeing here is the purest form of racing we'll see all year as well, Sam, because no one's got any weight penalties right now.
That's right. In Super GT, there is a success ballast formula. So And then after the success ballast reaches a certain point, there's a fuel flow formula comes into effect. Now, neither of those things are in effect right now, because first race of the year, no one's had any success. But you will start to see these ballasts being put on. Now, we're having a look at the two leaders in GT500. There's the Honda. GT300, there is the Toyota Prius. Now,
brilliant outing for the Toyota Prius.
But they will have a huge amount of weight dumped on them, I suspect.
Fuji next round, a month's time. And it is our plan, I think we can say this now, to bring that to you here on Nismo.tv. And we'll team up with RadioLemans.com as well for that one if you can't watch and listen at the same time. If our plans have come to fruition, there will be a sound archive on RadioLemans.com. I'm watching that recording at the moment, and provided I can dump that onto something that I can get to Tim, we should have that up over this Easter weekend. Very busy weekend of motorsport around the world, particularly here in Europe. Many national championships starting this weekend. British GT at Alton Park on Monday. Brands Hatch for British touring cars this weekend.
British GT on Monday.
Didn't I just say that?
Did you?
Yes. Now here is the GT300 battle for 4th position. And it is again a GT3, the Audi Tommaso Chayo. That was the pole sitting Audi GTR, excuse me, battling with the R8 of Okayama.
There is, of course, a GT3 race at Nagaro this weekend, which is...
It is. As...
oddly, what I thought you said.
Scott sounds... Nagaro and Alton Park, very similar. As the head of World Challenge, Scott Beauvais, described it, bland pain. The Bland Plane Championship.
I couldn't possibly comment.
Which did make me laugh a little bit.
The SRO, who organise those GT3 championships, are involved a little bit in Super GT. There's an agreement signed at the beginning of this season. The SRO, Stefan Ratel's organisation, will be managing the balance of performance for the GT3 cars in this series.
Right.
But they won't get involved in the other two types of GT300 cars, which is a good battle between the GTR and an Audi.
And these are two FIA GT3 cars. It's interesting, we should be talking about at the time that these two guys are battling away. The
GTR there is the fully loaded 2015 spec car, the updated car from Nismo and JRM, whereas the Audi there is the older spec LMS. No new Audi R8s in Japan quite yet, but we will see those next season, if not later this season.
I would think later this season is the plan, I think, to get them out to customers by September, October. And Shinya Hosokawa in that 86 car, started by Christian Mamarov on the Yokohamas, battling with that number 10 Nissan, the pole sitter, Katsumasa Chiyo, who was at Bathurst, of course, the 12 hours, on Dunlop. So two different cars, two different tyre manufacturers. The tyre battle is in GT300 as much as it is in GT500. And these two cars, these are FIA GT3 spec cars battling for 4th position in the category.
I mean, the FIA GT3 spec cars won the championship last year. So
much to the chagrin of the Japanese.
Much to the annoyance of the Japanese. So there's more Japanese FIA GT3 spec cars out in the championship this year, and more of the domestically produced mother chassis and Jaf Rules cars out. But the Jaf Rules cars were felt to be too expensive, so they introduced these mother chassis cars, which are much, much cheaper and should be quicker than the FIA cars. At the moment we're not seeing that, but they're all very new.
Katsumasa Chiyo and Andre Kuto. Where's your gentleman driver there, by the way?
Yeah. I'm not sure how...
Jörg Muller and Seiji Yara in the BMW. Now, the Studi BMW dropped out early. It was the first car to drop out, and we haven't had any word on what happened with that, I'm afraid. But that looked to have been potentially a drop of the car by Seiji Yara on the early laps, just through that section that these guys have been through. Through the exit of Redmond. Ended up on driver's left at the exit of Redmond as if he'd looped it into the wall. car did get back to the pits, but I don't think we've seen it out again.
I don't think it's returned to action, so we don't know what the problem with that is. The BMW is obviously BMW themselves have a new GT3 car coming,
which would be the Alpina M6 or the M6 rather.
The M6, yeah. I think Alpina have decided to rest their GT racing for a little while, but they're not gone for good.
Now there's the BRZ. That's the first time I think we've had a proper look at the Subaru BRZ. Now the BRZ and the GT86 in the real world are identical cars with a bit of badge engineering. Very, very different here, though.
That's right, John. This is a JAF rules car. This is a car that the BRZ we're looking at here uses some of the metal components from the real Subaru BRZ chassis. The roof line, the front bulkhead, some of the body panels have come straight from the road car. The GT86s that we're going to see in this race, and they are out there, they have nothing in common with the road car at all, apart from maybe the light clusters. So it's a very different philosophy between the two types, but again, they're all in the same class. So it's one to go poring over photos on the internet for, and you can start to pick out the differences after a while.
Ultimately, what we're talking about here is whether we get good racing or not. And the philosophy of the cars are similar, and honestly, I don't have an issue with that. This rain's getting worse, isn't it?
Yeah, I was about to say that, John. You can see the headlights beginning to pick up that fog and rain coming down. And that is going to move, I think, into the hands of the Nissans again. But can anyone catch that NSX up front? He's got a bit of a gap, and look how dark it's getting there now, John. Oh, and as we were talking about, here is one of the 86s.
As I said, in the real world, those two cars are barely discernible apart. A bit of trim difference and a different badge, a bit of different treatment on the car. They share the same engine, which is the Boxer 4.
That's it.
Here, they are nary apart common, I would have thought.
Nothing similar. This one we're looking at is built by Dome and has a carbon fibre monocoque chassis, whereas the blue one, the BRZ we saw, has a metal chassis, because BRZ has a metal chassis. This one has a Nissan V8 engine, whereas the Subaru has a Subaru EJ20 Boxer 4. And that's what it says, Proud of Boxer
on the front.
Yeah.
While we're talking about Dome, talking to the guys at Ricard, Dan Wormsley talking to me in one of our preview programs for the WEC, you might have heard last week, talking about the and there's the Petronas Cintium sponsored GT3 RCF that you were talking about.
Yes, I'll
come back to Dome in a moment.
This is the new GT3 specification Lexus. The first time Toyota has really done a GT3 and actually let people buy it. This car's only been seen at motor shows before now, so this is the first race.
So this is an FIA GT3 spec car?
It's an FIA GT3 spec car, though it's not been homologated, I don't believe, fully to GT3 rules, because it hasn't done any of the balance performance tests at Ladula or any similar running like that. But this is an FIA GT3 spec car.
Just to go back to the Dome story, Stracker, of course, palled up with Dome to do their LMP car, continue their working relationship, but Dome themselves effectively have been taken over now by Toyota, have become an arm of Toyota. How does that work?
This is what the reports coming out of the Japanese press are saying. They a while ago, TRD, Japan, the Toyota Japan's racing department, purchased the Dome wind tunnel, which is one of the best in the world. It now seems that whilst Dome as a company will continue, it's going to downsize and relocate from its very beautiful factory in Maibara to a slightly smaller factory closer to the train station, while the old factory is going to be taken over by Toyota for a new racing department. And it sounds like they've employed quite a lot of the LMP1 engineers. So that's going to be quite interesting to see what they're going to be working on.
A couple of things coming in on Twitter. Thank you, Jeff Easterling. He says, I think Audi uses the RS5 in DTM, so that would be a two-door. And Adam Johnson saying the RCF GT3 Louvre's fantastic to see it on track. Any news about when it will arrive in the European series? Well, that obviously they have to submit that for BOP. There was some. Oh, look at the water standing on the track now. You can see the rain falling very hard at Okayama here.
Well, that is the GT300 leader there, John, being beaten up on, I believe, by two other GT300 cars,
which I think are
I think they may be a way down.
I think they're unlapping themselves, but I'm prepared to hear otherwise.
Because these two have been at it for a while, but that's GTR has been, that's in 5th position.
So that's 5th place.
No, of course it's Hatsune Miku, our favourite car.
However,
that GTR though
might be the 2nd place car.
Yes.
I think that is the 2nd place car, as the laps are running down to go, so we're talking in the region of 30 miles of racing still to go. I'm trying to have a quick look at.
It keeps on skipping over a bit too quick, doesn't it, Jonathan?
Yeah.
As you can see, sometimes with the car names in Japan, it's more common to refer to the car, instead of using the manufacturer name, use the sponsor name, and then the end bit of the car. So you have an Excellence 911. It's still a Porsche, but
rear brig NSX, keeper RCF,
and the Studi
interesting,
Z4. It's just a different approach.
But it's respecting the sponsors, of course. The headlights now shining through the gathering gloom at Okayama as the rain continues to fall, and as heavy as we've seen it here in the 2 hours since the cars rolled off the dummy grid. Sam Collins of Race Car Engineering and me, John Hindhoff, watching the action here. And the keeper RCF is pulling back the leader. The rear brig car is just up ahead, and that is the battle for the lead. There's the leader, and struggling for the group, horribly held up there by one of the GT86s. And now this is the battle for the lead, going up the short straight to Redmond Corner, the left-hander, where the Lamborghini had its issue earlier on with the front wheel. This is the battle for the lead. We've got 11 laps remaining, and it looks like Izawa cannot find any kind of grip at all coming out the corners, and he's absolutely eaten up coming into Mike Knight, and now heading to the final corner, and that is the lead changing hands there, and the pole sitting car has got back to the head of the field, Sam Collins.
John, it's absolutely pouring down there at Okayama Circuit. You can see that's why it's suddenly gone so dark. You can see big wet raindrops falling through the headlights. This is really difficult.
Survival now, isn't it?
Yeah, this is really difficult for the drivers. They are struggling, and the tyres are old and worn, so they're not giving. The tread isn't as deep. The tread blocks aren't moving as much. They haven't got the grip, and some of those cars have been out on those tyres for a very, very long time.
More than 40 laps. The lead changing just a few moments ago as Takuya Izawa came out of Redmond, just could not get any power through the rear wheels of the Honda, and the Lexus on a different line punches through, and the team punched the air in delight at the keeper Tom's RCF pit. Andrea Caldarelli starting that car. It's Ryo Hirakawa at the wheel. Now, what I'd kind of like to see, if I'm honest, is what's going on in GT300.
Yeah, no, I want to have a look at that. That was Tachi-san, by the way, who's the owner, or one of the joint owner of Tom's. The Tom stands for Tachi Oiwa Motorsport. There is no Mr. Tom.
So there is your new leader. And you look at the starting grid for this and look at the finish, and you'll think, man, bloke won from pole. Tedious race. Nothing of it. Nothing of it. Now, further back down this field, this is for 7th and 8th, and once again the S-Road Nissan GTR has got company, and this time it's Heikki Kovalainen in the RCF, the Denso sponsored car, and that is 7th position for Kovalainen, and you've got to wonder where and how much further up the field they might have been had they not had that extra stop.
Yeah, exactly, and the Finns are quite good on slippery conditions, aren't they? So
you'd hope.
He is. I can see him working up a few more positions, actually, Kovalainen. I really want to see these gaps in GT300, and every time I look, they have just
skipped through,
scuttled off to the left.
10 laps to go.
Also, I've just spotted there's another 86 running around with a jaunty rear wing. Yeah, maybe these Nova chassis cars perhaps aren't quite as solid. They're all very new, so maybe they're not quite as solid as they perhaps should be quite yet.
So there is the Denso car of Heikki Kovalainen. This is the Saad RCF, the Denso Kobelco Kohei Hirate started this car, and even in the bad conditions, Kovalainen able to shine at the moment. There's your leader, Hirakawa, taking over the car from Andrea Caldarelli, and Rio doing a great job out there in the almost darkness now. It's much worse for the drivers than that the cameras are showing at the moment, and that is 5th and 6th. The Arta NSX being gained on there by, is that the Zent car? Yes, it is, the 38. So that will have Hiroki Ishihara at the wheel.
There's a big gaggle of GT500 cars there, John, all together, and that always leads to good racing.
And this means that your prediction about Kovalainen being able to get back, that there's certainly a top 5 here for Kovalainen, I think.
If he can get into this bunch, he could actually... Well, is that... The camera just moved out of the way. I was trying to see if that was Kovalainen coming over the crest there. He might be a little bit too far back, John.
The Arta NSX there at the back of that queue is 43 seconds away from the lead. And then he's 20 seconds back, isn't he, from this. I think with 9 laps to go, that's slightly too much even for Kovalainen to get his head around. Now the Prius has got 14 seconds on the 55 Arta CRZ, and then it's 35 seconds back to the Audi in 3rd position in GT300.
It'd be very interesting to see what that is next time past the stripe, John, just to see if that little CRZ is coming back at the Prius anymore. I don't think it is, because this is Prius weather.
This is Prius weather from earlier on. The wetter it was, the better they were. The Prius better when it's wetter. Not sure we'll see that on a sticker anytime soon. It's a month before we go to Fuji for the second round.
Quite often rains at that race.
Yeah, odd that, isn't it? And that will be very interesting to see when the weight and the success ballast is put on the cars, exactly how that changes around the stagger.
The Lexus cars tend to do very well at Fuji, as we look at a change of position with a Lexus car doing very well at Okayama.
Yeah, and that's D'Oliveira just going back a position there. He's slipping out of 5th position. He is the lead Nissan though, isn't he?
Yeah, this race hasn't gone so well for the GTRs. Their lead car, the Motul Ortec car, obviously languishing deep in the field now after losing many, many laps in the garage for an unknown problem.
Left rear hub or brake problem. We are only surmising on that, but definitely something was replaced on that car. Maybe could have even been a drive shaft that was nipping up, but I think it's some kind of hub or brake problem. If I was to someone was to poke me with a stick and ask me. And here is the Zent car carving its way past one of the Ferraris, or the Ferrari should I say.
There used to be quite a lot more for us. Ferrari's always had a presence in this championship. Have all the major manufacturers. As we look at Hirakawa, the leader of the race.
He's leaning on it.
He's making it work.
8 laps to go. 7 as he crosses the line this time. And the Lexus, Tom's Lexus, the keeper-sponsored car then, with 12 seconds.
Yeah, he's been opening the gap almost 2 seconds a lap there, John.
And a spin for the Lotus. Yeah, he's got it back going.
Yeah, no harm done. It's very wet there. It's incredibly wet, actually.
We might not get to the checker here.
I'd be surprised if they stopped it.
Really?
Yeah, different attitudes.
No, I like it. The throttle pedal is under the control of the driver. Unless the standing water and the cars are just aquaplaning off, even at lower speeds, then there's no reason. That's why we have rain tyres.
It is getting very wet, but the water, at least in the pit lane, doesn't. There is that rather battered 86 still.
Was that an 86?
That was the 86 with its
jaunty rear wing.
Jaunty wing, yeah.
So, counting down the laps now, it'll be 6 to go next time round. It looks as though that the pole sitter and a new qualifying record for Andrea Caldarelli. It looks like his teammate Rio Hirakawa will bring that car home, Sam, and that's a great start to the season. Always good to have points in the back. A fantastic run by the Prius, the APR. Kokisaga started that, and Yuichi Nakayama will bring it home, and it will be a double win for Bridgestone tired cars.
Yeah, it's a good place to be especially for the Lexus. I mean, the Lexus guys have actually been a bit dominant all weekend. This circuit has worked for their car. The manufacturers in Super GT are allowed to do year-on-year and circuit-by-circuit updates to some extent. That's been calmed down a little, but they still do come with a Fuji kit and a everywhere else kit. But big updates for all cars coming into this race, and lots of little tiny detail aero bits on these cars.
Here's the battle for the final step on the podium, and this is the Drago NSX, which at the moment is Ollie Turvey at the wheel. He's desperately trying to hang on as the Arta NSX, the bright orange car, flashing headlights, always gives you 2 or 3 miles an hour faster, I think, into a braking area. It's very dark out there, and how in 4th position the NSX driver, who is Tomoki Nojiri, can see anything of where his braking points are sitting in the spree. You can see how the aero's working, and that is a McLaren that spun.
That is the McLaren Pacific Racing with Mu.
With who?
Mu. The Greek alphabet character Mu. I have no idea.
Yeah. Well, Miu Miu is a fashion brand, but
No, just Mu, just one.
okay.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the budget phone.
Yeah. Rival of Lambda, apparently.
Very good. So Najiri still there, sitting in that spree. You can see how the aero's working from the diffusers coming down the back straight now into the hairpin. Najiri has another little look
there is a
down the
Lexus
inside.
back there, John. There's the Zent car.
That is 3rd, 4th and 5th then. 3rd, 4th and 5th now together, and Ollie Turvey could be done out of a podium here, and he may drop all the way down to 5th position.
Just looming out of the spray there. That was a very good stealthy approach. It was Ishura.
Ishura.
Yeah, and Turvey is... well, he's going to have to cling on with absolutely everything he's got.
5 laps to go, and this is the battle. But this is what you predicted, Sam. You said people who used the tyres in the early part, they may be struggling, and it's side by side now. But again, Turvey through Mike Knight's corner and heading towards the last turn. Manages to hold on at least to the line this time around. Ishura behind cannot live with the power of these and the pace of these cars down the front straight, but here comes Najiri down to the inside, and surely if he can get it stopped, and he can't get it stopped, he's gone wide, he's gone off. Oh, he's thrown away and nailed on 4th position. He's dropping down, 5th's gone already, and now that means that Ollie Turvey has the safety vehicle out on driver's left there.
I couldn't quite see. I think that's for the McLaren.
That's for the spun McLaren. Been a lot of spinners there. That was through the S's.
That's a very scared, jaunty winged 86 there with the car either side.
Round the outside, he's going to pull it off.
What a manoeuvre.
Another outside pass there. Brilliant stuff from the Hiroki Ishura driven Zent RCF. So that is 3rd position for that car, and he looks in good shape in this bad weather.
Now, if the team manager of that team there congratulating himself look quite familiar, that's Tiger Takagi. He used to drive for Tyrrell.
So 4 laps to go, just around 9 and a bit miles.
We're not talking much about GT300 because the gaps in that class are expanding, not compressing, so the top 3 will probably finish as they are. There's unless something happens in the next 4 laps. But with these conditions, anything could happen in the next 4 laps.
I mean, you could be part of someone else's accident here. The spray coming from the front wheels of the keeper Tom's RCF in the hands of Ryo Hirakawa is all you need to see to understand just how horrible these conditions are now. I've been quite impressed by Takuya Izawa. Did lead the race, of course, after the final pit stops, but was hauled in by Ryo Hirakawa. And it's 32 seconds now. Wow, 6 seconds in the last lap. Someone needs to get on the phone to Ryo Hirakawa and say, back off, son, you do not need to be going this quickly. Now, what the interest to me is, where is the rear brig car in terms of Ishura and the Zent machine. Tell you who we haven't seen, of course. We haven't seen that Ineos RCF that qualified in second place, the number 6 car.
Faded. Sometimes that happens. Wrong tyres, fade.
Well, there you go. There's the answer. 4 seconds taken last time around by the Zent car, and traffic now is not helping Izawa. He's probably going to, I think, Ishura and the Zent 38 RCF, he's going to run out of laps. He could do with it being another couple, but it's going to be close, and there can be no mistakes by Izawa. And his times are going out, Sam, massively.
Mm-hmm. That's nearly that could be just the weather though, John. That could be a consistent loss, because over the last 4 or 5 laps we've had this massive increase in rain and it's lost 4 or 5 seconds.
The Zent car is going very well indeed, and Ishura, having taken over from Yuji Takikawa, qualified 3rd, and he'll be getting to, and another 4 seconds that lap around with 3 to go.
Well, he's
he could get to him. He could get to him. Second place may yet be on for the Zent car.
That would be impressive, and it does look like that's not just the change of weather conditions. That is.
Well, look at his lap times. Look at his lap times. They've gone out.
Yeah.
But he's still lapping 4 and 5 seconds a lap quicker than the car he's chasing down.
And
he was doing 35 and a halves though before the rain came. That was a good 3 or 4 seconds quicker than what we'd seen before. So the last 3 laps still with drama to give here in GT300. The Toyota Prius leads, the number 31 car. It's the R2CRZ GT in second and the best of the Audis in third. They are not challenging at the moment unless we see one of those guys by the side of the road. That is how GT300 should end up. Ryo Hirakawa in the Keeper Tom's RCF is going to win this race, barring him throwing it at the scenery or some other disaster befalling him out there in the gloom. But second place at the moment held by Takuya Izawa in the Rearbrig NSX, the blue number 100 car. That is definitely up for grabs.
Wow, this is interesting.
And the Arta NSX as well has come through to 4th position. So that's another position lost by Ollie Turvey.
Yeah, but even then, the Arta car's not all that far behind the Zent car.
And the Arta car was the car, remember, that went off the circuit.
Yeah.
So Ollie Turvey's dropped back to at least 5th position in the Drago NSX. Yes, he has. It's confirmed on the top of the screen there.
And the Denso is up to 6th, with actually the Calsonic GTR right behind it. That would be worth looking at.
The Denso Sard RCF is Heikki Kovalainen, and we thought he might have a top 5. He's going to be in the top 6.
Well, at this rate,
with an extra pit stop.
With an extra pit stop.
There's your leader. Safe and secure. Bring it home.
2 to go.
Just under 5 miles. Thought Andrea Caldarelli did a great job at the beginning. It would have been easy to get frustrated and try to push the car and do more damage to the tyres. But clearly when everybody else was pit stopping and they went long and the weather came back to them, Caldarelli put in some very quick laps indeed, with the net result that when the pit stops played out, they were in a position to challenge. And he gave Ryo Hirakawa a car that could chase down the then leader, the Rearbrig NSX concept car, which they did. And they have led now for this last third of the race into the final lap. But the battle is for second on down, with Takuya Izawa under pressure.
And the conditions are just getting worse and worse as every metre they drive.
Oh, it's awful. Absolutely awful.
You can just see in some shots, as you guys at home can see, is it just... Oh, there you go, that 86 just sideways. All you can see is headlights.
And if this is what we can see on the television cameras, I'll tell you now, it's a heck of a lot worse for the drivers and for the marshals out there. That is exceptionally gloomy. The guys, whoever's racking these cameras, these HD cameras, is doing a great job to get as much light into them as possible. Interestingly, through Redmond there and up through Hobbs and into Mike Knight, it is a little bit brighter in the background, but here is the checkered flag then for the first round of the Japanese Super GT, live here on Nismo.tv, and it will be a win for the 37. That is a quality piece of strategy and driving. Now, the GT300 winner is about to come through. The third place in GT300 has already gone through. That's the number 21 Audi. There's your winner in GT300. The Prius has absolutely bossed this since it took the lead, and apart from the pit stop cycle, has not been challenged.
No, I mean that car has been absolutely superb in these wet conditions.
I don't even think we've seen that car pushing.
No,
I'm honest.
no, that car, apart from the very few opening laps, was just solid as the keeper.
The rear big NSX goes through, and the
it does
right behind him there in the gloom. The Zen car, I don't think there was a second, and there's the Arctic car going through in fourth. So where has Ollie Turvey dropped down to in the 15? He's
sixth. He's lost it.
Kovalainen's come through. Kovalainen's come through in fifth, and we still haven't seen Turvey come across the line in the 15 car. So Heikki Kovalainen does a cracking job. In the end, their strategy didn't quite pay out.
That was we didn't see what happened on that last lap because we were looking at the finish line, hoping we get a replay of what happened back there in the mist,
in the gloom. Yeah, we actually need some kind of sonar to be able to see through that. That is, look at the amount of spray. Fantastic outing for the Prius, which sounds magnificent as well. So, confirming the results then, the GT300 winner is that Green Tech sponsored Toyota Prius, the APR GT. Koki Saga started with Yuichi Nakayama finishing it off. Shinichi Tagaki and Takashi Kobayashi coming second in the Arta CRZ, the 55 car. And in third position in GT300, the number 21 Audi R8 LMS Ultra, Richard Lyne started the car. Tomonobu Fuji finishing that car off. And that was on Yokohama tyres, where as we had Bridgestones for first and second. In GT500, there's your winner. The pole sitter, Andrea Caldarelli, got away, and the strategy was played perfectly by the keeper Tom's RCF team. Ryo Hirakawa doing a very, very good second stint and having to overtake for the lead, and taking that from in second place. The number 100 started ninth by Naoki Yamamoto and Takuya Izawa coming through. Both Bridgestone shot those two, and a very close third position also on Bridgestone tyres. Yuichi Takikawa started the Zent Chirumo RCF, the 38 car, and it was Hiroaki Ishiura who finishes off Bridgestone, wiping the podium there. There's our leading pair, looking, as you might expect, Sam, very happy indeed.
They are indeed, as will the whole Tom's team be. I mean, even though they lost one of their car, the Petronas car, the sister car did manage to make it the finish, but it's also, it's been a good day for Toyota, hasn't it?
Yeah.
As we look really at the Green Tech Prius, this is a works-backed hybrid car. As you can see, the TRD sticker on the bonnet, but they are going to be very happy. That's a great way to start their season. However, it does mean they're going to go into Fuji with the maximum ballast, so their home race they're going to run with their maximum ballast.
I don't think we saw that car really being pushed. I think they've got some performance to give away.
I think they
in
have
that Prius.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure, in fairness, about the front of the field. I think the RCF was an interesting how that played out. In the intermediate type conditions, that car was good to start with, and then clearly was not working its tyres.
But the Honda was the real surprise when the conditions went to sort of the slick to mediate type territory, when they were on the wrong tyres. The Hondas were right there at the front and working the tyres really, really well, and could go longer, which was interesting.
Yeah, and that of course gave them more opportunities, and in fact got the Ray Brig NSX in the lead. Yamamoto went very long, and then Honda's favoured son at the moment, Takeya Isawa, GP2 driver last year, tipped for big things despite his relatively advanced years, 30 years old. He led the race but could not keep the tyres under the car, it looked to me.
Yeah, the whole Honda package still doesn't look to be quite there.
And I'm not at all criticising Isawa or Yamamoto. I think they did the best with what they had, and coming from 9th on the grid, I don't think they'll be too disappointed with that.
I think today in both classes, in the wet and on these tyres, it was Toyota's day. So
that brings us to the end then of the first round of the Japanese Super GT here on Nismo.tv. My thanks to Sam Collins of Race Car Engineering magazine. I'm John Hindhaugh. It's a month before we see these fantastic cars back out on the circuit. They're at Fuji, a brilliant circuit to race at, and you can join us for that. Let's see if we can pick up some interviews with our winners, and some of this will certainly be in English, so we'll stay with this for just a moment. The Keepers Tom's RCF drivers, Andrea Candarelli.
From the last year, it was the very tricky the condition. And how was it in the first part of the year?
Yeah, well, the first part was quite difficult because we knew that if it was not raining, it was quite hard. So I started to push since the beginning, try to get a big gap. And after that, we went down a little bit with the tires. And then before the pit stop started to rain again, and the pace was back. And after that, Rio did a very good job at the end, and I'm really, really happy for all the team, everybody in Lexus and Tom's, because we really deserve this win this time again.
本当にですね、スタート直後ですね、雨の降る中ですね、雨が降ってくる中ですね。
So there we are then, wrapping up with a few words from Andrea Caldarelli, and that does indeed bring to a close our coverage of the first round of the Japanese Super GT from Okayama this Easter Sunday morning. Thanks very much to Peter for his invaluable technical assistance and getting us on the air, and I hope you'll join us again for the rest of the season here on Nismo.tv. And a quick reminder, we will have an audio archive as well on RadioLeMans.com. But from me, John Hindhaugh, on behalf of Sam Collins of Race Car Engineering from the first round here at Okayama, thanks for joining us, and enjoy the rest of this big motorsport weekend. Bye for now.